Chapter 12:16. Seeing that Ning Fan refused to help, Omniscient Old Man had no choice but to do it himself. It took him quite a while to throw all the immortal materials into the waste pile. Although Omniscient Old Man was happy to throw them away, he regretted it not long after. 1 hour later. Suddenly, Omniscient Old Man regained part of his memory. When he saw the extreme divine sand and the other materials being thrown into the waste pile, he immediately became furious and cursed at the sky. Who is it? Who was the one who threw all of the immortal materials that my junior brother had painstakingly snatched back into the trash heap? Could it be Hung Jun again? Wait, why did I say, again? One should know that although the extreme divine sand and the other materials were not valuable, they were indispensable for his next experiment. Without a choice, Omniscient Old Man spent another effort to pick out the immortal materials one by one. He carefully cleaned them and removed the impurities from them. While cleaning, he scolded Hung Jun for being despicable and shameless. When he finally cleaned all the immortal materials, Omniscient Old Man's eyes became dazed again and he lost his memory again. After losing his memory, Omniscient Old Man was displeased when he saw the pile of rubbish in front of him. Strange. I have already thrown these rubbish into the waste pile. Why are they still here? Which bastard who gave birth to a son without balls picked them up? Could it be Hung Jun? Forget it, I'll throw them again. Another half an hour passed. Who is it? Who threw these immortal materials into the waste pile for the second time? Wait, why did I say, again? I have no choice but to pick them up and wash them again. I have no choice but to wash them and throw them away again. I have no choice but to pick them up and throw them away again. Just like that, Omniscient Old Man tossed and turned the pile of immortal materials back and forth for 6 to 7 days. He was still tossing and throwing them away again and again. He was completely caught in an endless loop and was having a lot of fun. Ning Fan had already developed a certain degree of immunity towards Omniscient Old Man's confusing behavior. Thus, he did not accompany Omniscient Old Man to mess around blindly. He was a normal person and he had serious things to do. Previously, when Ning Fan destroyed the Ocean Sand sect, he accidentally killed an immortal Emperor Realm Cloud-born beast. In the illusory world of the ancient rainy night, he interrogated that immortal Emperor Realm Cloud-born beast for 100 years. Finally, he got what he wanted from it, the cloud concealment technique of the Cloud-born beast clan. The full name of this technique was Heaven Concealing Cloud Technique. It was the most powerful concealment technique that Ning Fan had ever obtained. How powerful was he? With Ning Fan's heaven-defying senses, even a first-level quasi-saint would not be able to hide under his nose. However, that cloud-born beast managed to do so with just the cultivation base of a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. Isn't this enough to explain the problem? A 6th tribulation immortal emperor who had mastered the cloud technique of the stage of transformation was able to hide from Ning Fan's senses. If Ning Fan also learns the realm of cloud technique, would he be able to deceive the senses of even saints? Of course, Ning Fan was interested in learning such a powerful concealment ability. If he had mastered the cloud technique earlier, when he was being chased by the Ant Lord in his dreams, he might have had a chance to hide and escape. With Ning Fan's comprehension ability, it only took him 6 to 7 days to comprehend the essence of the heaven-concealing cloud technique. Unfortunately, this technique could not be learned just by comprehending it. In order to truly master it, he still needed to fulfill various harsh requirements. The first requirement was to find a place where ancient clouds filled the air and absorb enough cloud chi. Clouds were actually formed by rising water vapor. The water vapor would turn into clouds and the clouds would turn into rain. In other words, the essence of clouds was actually just a certain stage of rain. Clouds were the starting point of rain and also the final destination of rain. Rain was the end of clouds and also the beginning of clouds. The lifespan of clouds was as short as the life of rain. Of course, this short lifespan was not absolute. Not every drop of rain would return to the ocean. Therefore, not every cloud would turn into rain and dissipate. Since there was an everlasting rain in this world, there would certainly be clouds that would never disperse. What Ning Fan wanted to find was this kind of ancient clouds. The older the better. If he absorbed 1,000-years-old ancient cloud, he would need 3 million years to master the cloud technique. If he absorbed 10,000-years-old ancient cloud, he would only need 300,000 years to master the cloud technique. 100,000-years-old ancient cloud, 3,000-years-old ancient cloud and 300-years-old ancient cloud. On one hand, Ning Fan wanted to learn the heaven-concealing cloud technique. On the other hand, the grand competition of the Lost World Palace was just around the corner. He did not have much time to waste on cultivating the cloud technique. Not to mention 300 years, he did not even have enough time to cultivate the heaven-concealing cloud technique. There are a lot of rare and precious immortal materials in Senior Omniscience Laboratory. I wonder if there are any ancient clouds that are old enough to help me master the cloud technique in a short time. Ning Fan wanted to ask Omniscient Old Man, but the latter was in a frenzy. How could he have the time to answer him? Little friend, you need ancient clouds? Then go to my Cloud Valley and take them yourself. You asked where the Cloud Valley is? Can't you just spread out your spirit sense and sense it a little? Alright, don't disturb me from doing my proper business. After being interrupted by you, I don't even know whether I should throw these several hundred poles of extreme divine sand back to the waste pile or pick them up. Sigh. Let me think about it. Don't disturb me anymore. Ning Fan left silently and went to look for Yungu. As for Omniscient Old Man, I'll leave him alone to have his fun. The Cloud Valley was none other than the place where the sludge monster's immortal cave was located. At this moment, the sludge monster was happily bathing in the misty world. Of course, she was not bathing in a mud body. Instead, she was bathing in her human body. Ever since the curse was lifted, she could freely switch between her human body and the mud body as she pleased. However, the problem was that she had not shown her human body in front of others for too many years. This led to a problem: her sense of shame was overflowing. She did not have enough mental preparation. She did not dare to show her human body in front of others. She was too thin-skinned. It was also because of this reason that she still used her mud body to interact with Ning Fan even after the curse was lifted. Only when there were no outsiders around would she dare to truly release herself. She cupped her hands in the sea of clouds and poured the water vapor on her body. It's so comfortable. Like a mischievous young girl, she gently raised her toes and kicked the clouds. Her fine black hair was covered with water vapor and scattered on her back. The sludge monster pointed her finger and the clouds condensed into a water mirror. She stared at her own perfect face in the water mirror with infatuation. Mirror, oh mirror. Who is the most beautiful woman in the world? Phoenix Marsh. It's the Phoenix Marsh. Under the influence of the sludge monster's ability, the water mirror spoke unwillingly. However, it was not the mirror that was speaking. It was the ability that was speaking. Hee hee, the mirror suddenly let out an inexplicable laugh. No, it's not the mirror laughing. It's Ning Fan laughing. All of a sudden, the sludge monster was petrified. Wait. Didn't she seal all the entrances to the Cloud Valley? How did Ning Fan come in? Wait. Did Ning Fan see her human body? No. It's not as simple as seeing her human body. He saw everything. I'm not wearing any clothes. Ah! A woman's scream resounded throughout the Cloud Valley. Under Ning Fan's inexplicable gaze, the sludge monster hurriedly turned into a big lump of mud. She looked at Ning Fan with teary eyes and felt extremely wronged. You're cold and heartless. You peeped at me while I was bathing. Sob. If I tell you that I really didn't know that there would be people bathing in the clouds in this world, would you believe me? You've set up a restriction around this place to isolate the senses of spirit sense. I only found out about this after I entered this place. Ning Fan spoke nonsense with a serious expression. Actually, he knew everything. However, he just wanted to come in and have a look. It was not because he coveted the sludge monster's beauty. He was really curious about the appearance of the sludge monster. He really didn't expect that his little sludge monster was actually quite good-looking. What was more unexpected was that this lump of mud had such a narcissistic side when it was alone. Mirror, mirror. Who's the most beautiful? Hee hee. What an interesting lump of mud. It really pleased him. I don't care. Even if you're a hero, you have to take responsibility for seeing me bathing. The sludge monster said angrily. I have to take responsibility just because I'm bathing? All right. After I take responsibility for you, I can look at you openly. Ning Fan said with a smile. No. No way. I don't want you to take responsibility anymore. I'm going back on my words. The sludge monster was shocked when she heard what Ning Fan said. She would directly die of embarrassment if Ning Fan looked at her every day. She would literally die of embarrassment. I don't need to take responsibility. So I don't have to bear any consequences when I look at you bathing? All right then. I'll look at you again next time. You. The sludge monster was so angry that her cheeks puffed up. Ning Fan had a lot of twisted logic. What should she do if she could not win against him in an argument? This silly mud monster is really fun. Ning Fan reached out his palm and patted the sludge monster's head. His first move was to touch her head. The sludge monster's breath stagnated. Her heart skipped a few hundred beats. The sludge monster's face turned as red as a monkey's butt. What should I do if my head is touched again? What should I do if I feel a little happy? She seemed to be happy and angry at the same time. Ning Fan, on the other hand, did not care about her anymore. Instead, he scanned the surrounding clouds and estimated the age of the ancient clouds. Not bad. Not bad at all. The ancient clouds here were at least 10 million years old. It was unknown how many of them were hundreds of millions of years old. There were even ancient clouds that were 1 billion years old and 10 billion years old. However, their numbers were a little less. With an ancient cloud of this age, he didn't have to spend much time at all to be able to master the concealed heaven cloud technique. He was really too lucky. After taking a deep breath of the cloud chi, Ning Fan immediately felt that his eyes and ears were clear. The smell of these ancient clouds was really too unique. It was like the growth rings of an old tree, the ruins of the world and the faint fragrance of a young lady's skin. Ning Fan suddenly felt a little awkward. The growth rings of the old tree and the ruins were just his imagination. However, the fragrance of the young lady's skin was real. But the fragrance of the girl's skin was real. You can't breathe it in. You can't breathe it in. These clouds are the bathwater that I used just now. The sludge monster also felt awkward. What should she do? How is Ning Fan breathing in the cloud chi? Ning Fan is obviously drinking her bathwater. It doesn't matter. I've drunk things that are even more shameful. Ning Fan seemed to have recalled some of the past between him and Bei Xiaoman. The awkwardness in his heart was instantly swept away and he gulped down the cloud chi. What bathwater? Why are you thinking so much about it? Ancient clouds are ancient clouds and nothing else. If this stinky lump of mud uses the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the entire cultivation world to bathe, does that mean that every cultivator who absorbs the spiritual chi of heaven and earth is drinking her bathwater? Nonsense. As a result, under the eyes of the sludge monster, which was filled with embarrassment, delight, and astonishment, Ning Fan only used 6 hours to cultivate the hidden heaven cloud technique to the rudimentary level. At the moment when he mastered the entry level of the hidden heaven cloud technique, the patterns of the auspicious clouds around Ning Fan's body shone brightly as if they were resonating with the hidden heaven cloud technique. The patterns of the auspicious clouds were obtained when Ning Fan was hunting the immortal emperors of the Dragon Horse clan in the Eastern Realm River. It could turn into auspicious clouds to protect one's body and increase one's defense. However, because the amount of auspicious clouds Ning Fan obtained at that time was too little and its use was limited, he had forgotten about it as time went by. Now that he absorbed a large amount of the cloud chi, not only did he master the entry level of the hidden heaven cloud technique, but also the power of the auspicious clouds that he absorbed previously. Both of them were cloud techniques with the same origin. At this moment, they even seemed to resonate with each other inside Ning Fan's body. Suddenly, a bold idea popped up in Ning Fan's mind. Why must I cultivate the hidden heaven cloud technique of the Cloud Birth Beast clan? Can't I cultivate a more powerful cloud technique? The one that incorporates the defense of the auspicious clouds into it. What would happen if I incorporate the defense of the auspicious clouds into the hidden heaven cloud technique? This might be difficult for others, but with my second level heavenly being realm Dao comprehension, it's quite possible for me to do it. It doesn't matter even if I fail, as it won't take much effort. However, if I succeed. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with determination. Green light shone brightly in his eyes. It was the green light of the second-level heavenly being realm. At that moment, he fully activated his heavenly being realm. Within the sea of clouds, the illusory phenomenon of the heavenly being gate was formed. It was not just one heavenly being gate but two. Brother Hero is actually a second-level heavenly being realm cultivator. The sludge monster was greatly astonished. Under its astonishment, it even forgot about the shameful thing that happened just now. Only admiration was left in its eyes. When I look at the hidden heaven cloud technique, it looks like a circle. When I look at the auspicious cloud technique, it also looks like a circle. Ning Fan spoke in a language that the sludge monster could not understand. As he raised his hand, he actually drew the entire sea of clouds into two big circles. He even drew countless strange Dao marks under the two big circles. The meaning of those Dao marks was obscure and not something that the sludge monster could understand. The number of Dao marks increased. The further he drew, the more difficult it became to draw. When the number of Dao marks reached their limit and could no longer grow any further, Ning Fan suddenly clasped his hands together. Then, the two circular sea of clouds violently collided with each other. There was no sound that could destroy heaven and earth. Instead, there was only the fusion of the clouds. At this moment, another strange phenomenon appeared. On one side of the sea of clouds, there was a flickering hidden heaven cloud light, while on the other side, there was a 10,000 zhang tall auspicious cloud. However, as the two of them fused together, there was no clear boundary between the hidden heaven cloud light and the auspicious cloud. They truly became one. From then on, Ning Fan no longer had the hidden heaven cloud technique nor the auspicious cloud technique in his body. He did not have either of them, but he also had both of them. Did I succeed? The fusion of the clouds is just like two drops of rain falling together. Rain and clouds. So that's how it should be. That's how it should be. In the past, I was still lacking a little bit to complete half of the big circle of the rain palm position. Now, perhaps I can truly draw the semicircle of rain. It turns out that I don't need to use rain to draw the last stroke. Instead, I need to use clouds. Ning Fan flicked his finger and the sea of clouds between heaven and earth suddenly changed. They turned into dark clouds in the sky and then turned into a heavy downpour. It was the transformation of clouds into rain. The missing stroke was this matter. In the past, he only needed an opportunity to truly step into the rain palm position. Now, the opportunity had finally arrived. Condense. As Ning Fan gave his order, the rain in the sky suddenly condensed into a huge semicircle. That was the real semicircle of rain. At the moment when the semicircle truly condensed, Ning Fan's rain palm position had officially stepped into the mid-realm of the rain palm position. At the same time, he also saw the path that he needed to take to attain the grand completion realm of the rain palm position. From now on, if he wanted to improve the rain palm position, the key was not to cultivate the rain but to cultivate the clouds. When Ning Fan cultivated the clouds until they were as powerful as the rain, when the clouds and rain merged into one, he would be able to attain the grand completion realm of the rain palm position. Disperse. As Ning Fan gave his order, the semicircle of rain immediately shattered, turning into raindrops that filled the sky. The raindrops that filled the sky then turned back into clouds again. Then, they turned back into ancient clouds that covered the entire cloud valley. However, everything did not return to peace. The old strange phenomenon dispersed one after another, and a new phenomenon suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. That strange phenomenon was like a painting that spread across heaven and earth. The will of the heavens lingered on it. The content of the painting was that of an ancient immortal. It was an immortal whose body was completely condensed from rain. His eyes were like the heavens, and his body was emitting an immortal spiritual aura force that was as vast as the mountains and seas. When the sludge monster saw the content of the painting, he immediately exclaimed in surprise. "The immortal father of rain. This is the sovereign heavenly diagram. Brother hero, you must be joking, right? You actually cultivated to the mid-realm of the rain palm position just by drinking a few mouthfuls of my bathwater. How is this possible? Don't tell me that my bathwater is a spiritual medicine used to cultivate to the sovereign realm." As soon as he finished speaking, the sludge monster also took a deep breath. "Strange. I have also drunk the bathwater, but why can't I feel any increase in the power of the sovereign realm?" "You are thinking too much." Ning Fan did not know whether to laugh or cry. He patted the sludge monster's head and stared at the gigantic painting between heaven and earth with a solemn expression. "What do you mean by the immortal father of rain and the sovereign heavenly diagram? Brother hero doesn't know these things. You know nothing about the sovereign realm, but you have already cultivated to the mid-realm of the sovereign realm?" The sludge monster looked at Ning Fan as if he was looking at a monster. He even suspected that his bathwater had a magical effect that allowed Ning Fan to truly step into the sovereign realm by accident. Only by attaining the mid-realm of the sovereign realm could one be considered as a true sovereign immortal cultivator. "I'm not too sure, but I'm not completely clueless about the sovereign realm. I more or less know a few methods to attain the sovereign realm." "Tell me, what do you mean by all these?" Ning Fan asked again. "I don't really know much about Celestial Father and Tian Tuesday. After all, I've never cultivated to the palm realm. However, when I was in the true world, I heard people say that the sovereign heavenly diagram is both a fated chance and a predestined fate. Whether or not one can seize the fated chance depends on one's own strength. However, if one's strength is not enough, being overly obsessed might also lead to one's own destruction. When it's time to give up, you should give up. Don't fight for it, as you won't be able to win it anyway. Furthermore, not every cultivator who has cultivated to the sovereign heavenly diagram will be able to attract the sovereign heavenly diagram. Most of the sovereign cultivators do not have such an opportunity." "I don't understand." Ning Fan decided that it was better not to ask the sludge monster about it. Why would he ask about the sludge monster when there was a ready-made sage around? "Clear my doubts." Ning Fan used a commanding tone and said to the Ant Lord in his sea of consciousness. The Ant Lord could see his thoughts. He didn't need to explain to the Ant Master what he wanted to know. The Ant Master knew what he wanted to know. "Humph. Little Ant Ning, what kind of tone is that? You dare to use such a tone to speak to a saint? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Wait. Please don't use your charm spell. If you want to clear my doubts, then so be it. Retract your charm spell." Initially, the Ant Lord still wanted to be stubborn. However, when she saw that Ning Fan was going to use his charm spell on her just because of a disagreement, she immediately gritted her teeth in anger. However, she no longer dared to act pretentiously anymore. Thus, she immediately explained everything to Ning Fan. In this world, there were many ways to cultivate to the sovereign heavenly diagram. However, only those who have attained the sovereign heavenly diagram through a perfect method could attract the sovereign heavenly diagram. The sovereign heavenly diagram was a gift from the heavens. The ancient immortals drawn on the sovereign heavenly diagram were usually the immortal fathers who were supposed to control the sovereign heavenly diagram in the immortal spirit era. Ning Fan relied on a perfect method to cultivate to the sovereign heavenly diagram instead of relying on other tricks. Thus, he attracted the sovereign heavenly diagram. The ancient immortal drawn on the sovereign heavenly diagram was the first rain immortal father who was born in the immortal spirit era. He was the ancestor of all rain immortal cultivators in the world. If there are no other changes, the immortal rain father in the painting would give Ning Fan 3 gifts as a reward for his efforts. These 3 gifts could be magic treasures, pills, Tao fruits, or even secret techniques that were related to the sovereign heavenly diagram. Anything could be given. The quality of the gift would depend on the individual's fortune. The only thing that could be confirmed was that even the worst gift could greatly improve the strength of a second-step cultivator. This was the fortune that the soft sludge monster mentioned. At the same time as the fortuitous opportunity, there was also danger. Every time the sovereign heavenly diagram appears, the cultivators of the same generation and the same sovereign heavenly diagram would be able to sense it. Those people could use the connection of the sovereign heavenly diagram to travel across regions and descend to snatch the immortal father's reward. If Ning Fan's strength was not strong enough and he could not protect his own reward, the other sovereign heavenly diagram cultivators could only benefit from it. So, the cultivators who have also attained the sovereign heavenly diagram are going to descend to snatch my reward soon? Ning Fan's expression immediately darkened. Not only the sovereign heavenly diagram cultivators but also the titled rain cultivators. The titled sovereign heavenly diagram cultivators are of the same origin. If the titled rain cultivators are willing, they can also descend to the sovereign heavenly diagram, but the difficulty will be slightly higher. Even the sovereign heavenly diagram cultivators who also possess the same element of water might have a chance to descend to the sovereign heavenly diagram. Of course, the difficulty will be higher. You should be glad that you did not attain the sovereign heavenly diagram in the true world. Do you know that every time a sovereign heavenly diagram appears in the true world, there will be hundreds or even thousands of cultivators who have the same origin coming to snatch the sovereign heavenly diagram? Even if the immortal father's reward descend to the sovereign heavenly diagram, it won't be given to the cultivators who have attained the sovereign heavenly diagram. Basically, it will be taken away by outsiders. Fortunately, the true world is separated from the illusory world. Thus, the sovereign heavenly diagram cultivators in the true world won't be able to sense your breakthrough. The number of people who will come to snatch your reward won't be as terrifying as hundreds or even thousands of them. It's already good enough if there are only 5 of them. The Ant Lord explained reluctantly. She really wanted to see Ning Fan being humiliated. She wanted to see Ning Fan being robbed by hundreds or even thousands of sovereign heavenly diagram cultivators from the true world. Unfortunately, Ning Fan, who was in the illusory world, was destined not to encounter such an unfortunate event. During the Age of Chaos, the number of cultivators with the title of Rain Palm and Rain Title could be counted on one's fingers. There might be some who came, but there definitely wouldn't be too many. Is it possible for titled rain cultivators to come as well? Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He thought of someone. The Water Sect's sect master who had a grudge against him. The second stage quasi-saint who had obtained the title of Rain Master. If the other party really came, even if it was just a wisp of his divine sense, he definitely could not be underestimated. Would today be the first time he fought with that person? The place where the 4 great savage seas of northern sky converged. The Water School's sect master was at a critical juncture in condensing his 6th dragon. Logically speaking, nothing should be able to disturb him at such a critical juncture. However, right at this moment, a major event occurred that disturbed his mental state. It caused the condensation of the 6th dragon to be slightly flawed, and he had no choice but to temporarily stop. He opened his eyes in disbelief. Besides shock, there was also a trace of greed in his eyes. It's actually the sovereign heavenly diagram. The sovereign heavenly diagram recorded in the ancient records. I thought it was just a legend, but I didn't expect it to be true. But why didn't such a good thing happen to me when I obtained the title of Rain Cultivator in the past? What kind of rain cultivator is this? How could he have such luck to attract such a legendary phenomenon? Humph. I don't care who he is. No matter what, I want a share of the 3 rewards from this person's sovereign heavenly diagram. Immortal stones. Take good care of my physical body. I'm going to enter a state of hibernation and use the Rain Master's soul-splitting technique. This technique can't tolerate any mistakes since it comes from another domain. If you're careless, I won't forgive you. In the cold ice swamp country of Western Heaven. There was an ice mountain in the cold ice swamp country. An ancient giant Buddha was frozen inside the ice mountain. No one knew how long this giant Buddha had been sealed in ice. However, today, the ice mountain suddenly left. The giant Buddha walked out of the ice and opened his eyes. For a moment, heaven and earth were filled with Buddha light. Countless believers worshipped the giant Buddha. The heavenly diagram of rain? It doesn't seem to be in the Western Heaven. I wonder which realm's rain cultivator actually attracted this item. I don't want to be involved in the mortal world, but if this item appears, I might have to make a trip here. Although the four heavens are sealed, if I can use the guidance of the heavenly diagram that contains the power of the immortal realm, I might be able to use it to cross over. It's just that I'll have to pay a heavy price. In the ancient Demon's Lock, where the third mountain was suppressed. Under the suppression peak, the Flood Emperor was barely breathing and begging for death. However, when he sensed the heavenly diagram of rain, he felt a trace of excitement. Chance. This is my chance to escape. The suppression of the palm of emotion is strong, but with the guidance of the heavenly diagram, I can leave for a short period of time. Although I can't really leave, it's still a chance. If I can get the treasure from this person's heavenly diagram, I might have a chance to break the third mountain and escape. I can't miss this chance. No matter who drew the heavenly diagram here, the reward from the heavenly diagram must belong to me. In the heavenly demon realm, the true martial clan. The territory of the true martial clan was built on a turtle-shaped continent. There were millions of demon cities and billions of demon cultivators. This continent was too big, and no one knew where it came from. However, something big happened in the true martial clan today. It was something that shocked the entire heavenly demon realm and even the spirit king of the demon race. The vast turtle-shaped continent suddenly came to life. With an arrogant and hoarse voice, it laughed towards the sky. Heavenly diagram. I want it. Chapter 12:17. Ning Fan had no idea how many people were eyeing him right now. To be honest, he was not really interested in the so-called reward of the heavenly diagram. Did he lack cultivation methods and abilities? Did he lack magic treasures? Not really. One should know that he had yet to learn all the powerful abilities that he had obtained from the heavenly diagram. Moreover, he had a bunch of magic treasures that he could not use. He did lack some pills and Dao fruits that could increase his cultivation base, but it was not a must for him. He did not value the reward of the heavenly diagram. However, it was not a reason for others to snatch his things. He was a disciple taught by the old devil sect. As the sect master of the Black Devil sect, he had always been the one who snatched other people's things. Since when did it become others' turn to snatch his things? Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. He stared at the sovereign heavenly diagram above the cloud valley, waiting for what would happen next. The sovereign heavenly diagram in the sky became brighter and brighter. The contents of the diagram became richer and richer. Other than the immortal Rain Father, the mountain and river's pavilion began to appear. When the light reached its peak, Ning Fan suddenly felt an endless suction force that sucked him into the heavenly diagram. The strange thing was that the diagram only seemed to have an endless suction force on him. It did not affect outsiders like the sludge monster at all. Brother Hero. The sludge monster panicked. She did not know much about the sovereign heavenly diagram. How would she know what was going on? When she saw Ning Fan being sucked into the diagram, she thought that he was in danger. She did not care about her own safety and flew towards the diagram, wanting to enter it to save Ning Fan. However, how could she enter the diagram? Instead, the diagram's vast immortal spirit chi shook her body, almost shattering her mud body. She spurted out a mouthful of blood and fell from the sky. Big Brother Hero, don't let anything happen to you. It's all my fault. If I didn't take a bath here, you wouldn't have accidentally drunk my bathwater and broken through to the palm realm. The sludge monster was in tears. She did not understand what had happened. She only knew that she was severely injured when she tried to approach the sovereign heavenly diagram. As for Ning Fan, he was sucked into the diagram. If that was the case, wouldn't his injuries be even worse and he would be trapped in the diagram until his death? Obviously, she did not have the cultivation base to save Ning Fan. Judging from how easily she was injured by the diagram, even a great cultivator from the ancient times might not be able to do anything to it. Master. I have to look for Master. Master must have a way. The sludge monster didn't even bother to wipe the blood off his face. He hurriedly left the Cloud Valley to seek help from Omniscient Old Man. At first, when Omniscient Old Man heard that Ning Fan was in trouble, his eyes were filled with madness. How could he still care about the pile of immortal materials? However, after that, the sludge monster explained the reason why Ning Fan was sucked away by the sovereign heavenly diagram. Hearing this, Omniscient Old Man's madness disappeared, and he calmed down. He then stared at the sludge monster speechlessly. Fengzhe, oh Fengzhe, I told you to read more books, but you didn't listen. Your brother Hero is fine, he's doing great. If he was lucky, he could get 3 rewards for free. If he was unlucky, he would at most be robbed of some treasures, and his life would not be in any danger. Alright, this old man still has business to attend to. Don't disturb me before I'm done with this waste. Go down. But Master, the sludge monster wanted to say something, but its face suddenly hurt. It turned out that Omniscient Old Man had thrown a tattered ancient book at her face. It was unknown how long this ancient book had existed. The book was stained with a lot of oil, vegetable juice and dried rice grains. It seemed like someone had used it to fill the dishes. Go. Read this book properly. After you finish reading it, you won't have to worry about that brat anymore. After you finish reading it, when that brat comes out from the heavenly diagram, teach him to read it too. I'm really impressed by rogue cultivators like you. You don't even know a fart, but you still dare to cultivate to the sovereign heavenly diagram and pry into the origin of Tao. The sludge monster lowered its head and looked at the grease-stained book. She was in so much pain from being smashed. Through the greasy stains, she barely recognized the name of the book and was shocked. Tao Scripture. No, it can't be. Isn't Tao Scripture a supreme treasure that only 4th step immortal emperors can master? How could Master have a Tao Scripture? How could he allow a little cultivator like her to read such a precious scripture? Master, please don't joke. Tao Scripture is an item of the 4th step. Without the permission of the person who wrote it, no one can read it. The Tao recorded in it can't be cultivated by others. It belongs to the person who wrote it. I don't know who the person who wrote it is, and I haven't gotten his permission. Even if I open this book, I'm afraid I'll only see a blank page. It's no different from reading a wordless heavenly scroll. The sludge monster only felt that the Tao Scripture in her hand was heavy and extremely hot. Don't worry. This isn't the real Tao Scripture. It's a fake Tao Scripture. The person who wrote it isn't a 4th step immortal emperor. He's still 1 step away from breaking through. However, he's unwilling to take this step. Even if the main sect forces him to, he wouldn't do it. Even if his adopted son forces him to, he still wouldn't do it. So, this is actually a fake Tao Scripture. It's not as valuable as you think. It's also not a wordless heavenly scroll. Omniscient Old Man turned around. The sludge monster couldn't see his expression, but she could feel that his tone was sad and lonely. Fake Tao Scripture. What's that? I've never heard of such a thing. The sludge monster was confused. Omniscient Old Man remained silent. He did not explain to the sludge monster what the fake Tao Scripture was. Instead, he suddenly turned around with a blank expression. Who am I? What's the fake Tao Scripture? The sludge monster was speechless. She knew that her master's illness was acting up again. She wouldn't be able to get any more information from him. She lowered her head and flipped through the fake Tao Scripture. Sure enough, it wasn't a wordless heavenly scroll. It wasn't a Tao scripture that had reached the fourth step. There were no records of any divine abilities or cultivation methods in this book. It only recorded some scattered insights and theories about Tao. In the past, the sludge monster would have a headache whenever she reads a book. Now that she was reading this book, she naturally found it boring. Although it was boring, she still understood what Ning Fan was going through from the few words in the book. It turns out that the sovereign heavenly scroll won't endanger Brother Ying's life. I'm relieved now. The sludge monster heaved a sigh of relief and closed the fake Tao scripture. Then, she ran back to the Cloud Valley to wait for Ning Fan to come out of the scroll. As expected, she was still not interested in reading the book. I think it's better to let Brother Ying read it. A long time after the sludge monster left, Omniscient Old Man suddenly put down the immortal materials in his hands. He raised his head and glanced at the direction of the Cloud Valley. Even though he said that he would not care about Ning Fan's heavenly scroll, deep down, he was still a little worried. There shouldn't be anyone who can snatch something from that brat. However, if there's a mishap. Humph. If anyone dares to do anything to my junior brother, I'll pay him back 10,000 times. I'll let him die 10,000 times. Inside the sovereign heavenly scroll, there was a world that was formed by immortal qi. It was extremely lifelike. When Ning Fan was sucked into the heavenly scroll, he did not panic at all. It was because the Lord Ant was explaining to him in real time in his sea of consciousness. Thus, he knew that there was not much danger in this matter. The bestowal of the heavenly scroll was carried out inside the scroll. Unrelated people would not be able to enter it. Naturally, there was no way for them to interfere. Those who could come here to snatch Ning Fan's reward could only be those who were related to the Rain Immortal Master. Inside the heavenly scroll world, there was a drizzle that never melted all year round. In the depths of the rain curtain, there was a towering statue of a giant immortal that had existed since ancient times. The Rain Immortal Father. That statue was not made of soil or metal. Instead, it was made of rainwater. The height of the statue was the same height as the height of the heavens and earth. The statue was shaped like an old man who was sitting cross-legged in meditation with his eyes tightly shut. However, when Ning Fan was 3,000 zhang away from him, the statue suddenly let out a loud rumbling sound and opened its eyes. That pair of eyes were emotionless, devoid of spirit and intelligence. It was a pair of empty eyes without any signs of life. Obviously, the owner of the statue, the first Rain Immortal Father, had already fallen long ago. Only the statue of the rain was still in this world. Divine Spirit. Moreover, its Divine Father. But what is a Divine Spirit? The statue of the rain opened its mouth blankly, speaking in a language that even it did not understand. It was not the real Rain Immortal Father. The real Rain Immortal Father had already died in the long river of time. It had seen through Ning Fan's identity as a divine spirit, but it could not remember what this identity represented. The Immortal Spirit Clan and the Divine Spirit Clan were like fire and water. If it knew that Ning Fan was the #1 enemy of the Immortal Spirit Clan, it would certainly not give him a reward. Fortunately, it did not know. It was precisely because it did not know that the sovereign heavenly map descended and it appeared in this place. Even though it did not know, it still found Ning Fan to be an eyesore after all. It was almost instinctive. At first, Ning Fan was worried that something unexpected would happen after his identity was seen through. However, when he saw that the statue of the rain did not show much hostility other than revealing his identity in the beginning, he felt relieved for the time being and decided to wait and see. So, should I just do nothing and wait for it to give me a reward? Ning Fan asked the Ant Lord in his sea of consciousness. The treasures bestowed by the sovereign heavenly map are divided into 100 grades. The first grade is the highest grade and the 100 grades are the lowest. There are also hundreds of different containers such as boxes, vases, chests, urns, cauldrons, pots and jars which are used to store different treasures. Different containers can store different types of treasures. With your innate potential, you might be able to get something that is above the 50th grade. However, even if you get a treasure of that grade, don't be in a hurry to open it later. The ant lord paused and gritted her teeth. Why? Humph. Didn't you get a huge amount of merit points from me? You will be able to use it later. Damn it. If it wasn't because our minds are connected, why would I tell you how to use the merit points? The moment the ant lord mentioned the merit points, she became angry. If she knew that the merit points would eventually benefit Ning Fan, she wouldn't have been so frugal in the first place. Just as Ning Fan was about to ask why the merit points were used, a sudden change occurred. The statue of the rain statue suddenly chanted an ancient scripture. Then, its body shone brightly. After that, the rainwater in the world began to gather at Ning Fan's location rapidly, forming 3 huge water balls. The 3 water balls spun in midair. As they spun, they condensed and eventually turned into different forms. At the same time, the rain statue disappeared. Take care. Those were the last words the statue of the rain statue said before it disappeared. There seemed to be a hint of sarcasm in its words. Ning Fan knitted his brows and looked at the 3 rewards. All 3 of them were marked with introductory words. The first water ball became the cursed wooden chest. The treasure grade was 98. The second water ball became the paper bag that fell into the latrine pit. The treasure grade was 96. The third water ball became the paper bag that fell into the latrine pit. The treasure grade was 96. The wooden chest, the paper bag and the pot of urea were not the rewards. It was the things inside that were the rewards. However, the treasure's grades were so low. The things inside were obviously not good. No, even without looking at the grade of the treasures, Ning Fan knew that these rewards were not good. Nonsense. A curse, a latrine pit and a pot of urea. Even an idiot would know that these rewards were trash. Ha 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 ha. The ant lord burst into laughter. Why was he laughing? Of course, it was to gloat. The ant lord had lived for a long time. She had seen many people being rewarded by the heavenly map. However, no matter how low the rewards were, it would not be as low as Ning Fan's. The rewards that Ning Fan received were definitely not normal. No, it was not appropriate to describe it as abnormal. How was this abnormal? It was obviously a joke. How much did the rain statue left behind by the immortal rain father hate Ning Fan for it to bestow such a lowly reward upon him? A cursed wooden chest. One should know that in the rewards given by the heavenly map, the wooden chests were usually filled with various kinds of immortal materials. Could this chest contain materials that were used to forge cursed weapons? The kind that was used to forge demon blades and demon swords? The kind that would devour the host? Or the kind that would harm the host 10 times for each slash? Hee hee. This is really interesting. A paper bag that fell into a latrine pit? Just by listening to it, I can already imagine the scene. The blueprints inside the bag were probably already stained to the brim. I wonder if little Ant Ning's hands would feel sticky when he takes out these blueprints. Speaking of which, what is this thing made from the blueprint? Could it be the blueprint of a gong tub? Hee hee. I can't be sure. After all, I picked it up from a latrine pit. The funniest thing was, there was actually a pot of urea. Could it really be a pot of urea? Even if it contained the urea of a 4th step immortal sovereign, it was still not worth much. Speaking of which, what was the use of urea? Could it be that it could be drunk? Hee hee. It seems like it could really be drunk. Isn't the virgin urea a great tonic? If there really is a 4th step virgin urea in this world, it would probably be incomparably nourishing. Little Ant Ning has made a profit. Little Ant Ning has made a huge profit. I'm guessing that even though that rain statue doesn't remember what it means to be a deity, it still instinctively dislikes you. That's why it gave you such a reward. So it turns out that I'm not the only one who dislikes you. There are actually other like-minded people. The Lord Ant said with a gloating tone. Don't be angry. If you get angry, my heart will ache. No. Actually, the angrier you are, the happier I am. I'm not angry. Our minds are connected. I have already seen one of the uses of merit from your heart. Since that's the case, why should I be angry? It was absolutely impossible for Ning Fan to not be speechless after obtaining 3 trashy rewards. Fortunately, his mind was connected with the Lord Ant. Even if the Lord Ant did not finish her words, he already understood what the Lord Ant meant by using the merit. The reward of the heavenly map was not something that you had to take whatever the others gave you. It was true for ordinary people. However, there was a group of people who could cheat. What could they use to cheat? To take the merit points of a saint. The cultivators of the true world enforced justice on behalf of heaven. They would be bestowed with merit points. There were countless uses of merit points. It was almost omnipotent. It could even forcefully raise the grade of the treasures rewarded by the heavenly map. There was no other way. Merit points represented special privileges. It could even forcefully raise a person who did not have the potential to become a saint of virtue. It was just that domineering. It was just that special privileges. It was just that they could do whatever they wanted. Damn it. If you have the ability, don't use my merit points to cheat. If you have the ability, take the urea pot that the rain statue gave you home and worship it. The Lord Ant said with hatred. If I can cheat, why wouldn't I? Even though I'm not interested in the reward of the heavenly map, I dislike you taking pleasure in my misfortune even more. Sure enough, when you heard that I'm going to spend your merit points recklessly, you became depressed. We are very similar. Both of us are vile people who take pleasure in other people's misfortune. When I'm unlucky, you'll be happy. When you're angry, I'm actually quite happy too. Ning Fan said with a smile. Don't be too happy. Even if you use my merit points to forcefully increase the grade of the treasure rewarded by the heavenly map, it will only benefit others. Don't forget that there will be others who will come to snatch your treasure later. You might not even be able to protect your treasure. Why waste your merit points? The Lord Ant said angrily. Whether I want to use my merit points or not is none of your business. Ning Fan blocked off the Lord Ant's scolding. Then, he took out the heaven-opening jade book and performed a hand seal on it. All of a sudden, a ray of golden light shot up into the sky from the jade book. Then, it turned into 10,000 specks of light sand and sprinkled on the wooden chest. His original 11,800 saint merit points were immediately reduced by 1 point. As the golden light dispersed, the curse on the wooden chest gradually disappeared. At the same time, the quality of the wooden chest also began to change. The grade of the treasure in the wooden chest had increased. The cursed wooden chest turned into a broken fine iron chest. The grade of the treasure had risen to the 97th grade. After opening it, one could obtain an entire chest of low-grade fine iron. Alright. Fine iron was just an immortal material used to forge low-grade magic treasures. It was useless to Ning Fan. Then, he would just raise its grade. Once again, he used 1 point of saint merit points. The broken fine iron chest turned into a damaged mithril chest. The grade of the treasure was 96th grade. Rise again. An old gung gold chest. 95th grade. Rise again. An ordinary immortal jade chest. Rise again. A dim Dao crystal chest. Rise again. A dazzling bright sunstone chest. Rise again. Rise again. Rise again. In the beginning, it only required 1 point of saint merit points to upgrade the grade of the treasure chest. However, when the grade of the treasure rose to the 70th grade, it would require 2 points of saint merit points to upgrade it again. After the 60th grade, it would require 5 points of saint merit points to upgrade it. After the 50th grade, it would require 10 points. After the 40th grade, it would require 20 points. After the 30th grade, it would require 50 points. After the 20th grade, it would require 100 points. After the 10th grade, it would require 2,000 points of saint merit points to upgrade the grade of the treasure. After spending nearly 2,000 points of Saint Merit points, Ning Fan only managed to upgrade the first treasure to the 10th grade. It would be too expensive to upgrade it again. Ning Fan did not plan to spend all of his Saint Merit points. God knows if there would be another situation like this in the future where he would need Saint Merit points to exercise his special privileges. Speaking of which, where was the cursed wooden chest in front of him? Only the heavenly Tao box of immeasurable fortune was left. Ning Fan used the same method and spent another 2,000 points of Saint Merit points to upgrade the map bag that fell into the latrine pit to the 10th grade, the map bag of superlative workmanship. After spending another 2,000 points of Saint Merit points, the stinky urea pot was upgraded to the jade wine pot of the rain giant. There were still more than 5,800 points of Saint Merit points left in the heaven-opening jade book. Since Ning Fan did not have any concept of Saint Merit points, he was very generous and did not feel any heartache. Even if he kept some of the Saint Merit points, it was just for the occasional need in the future. It was not because he was reluctant to use it. Ning Fan was very satisfied with the result of the upgrade. Originally, he was not interested in the reward of the heavenly map. But now, he was a little interested. The heavenly Tao box seemed to contain some kind of immortal material. It actually emitted a little high-grade innate qi. Could it be a material used to forge high-grade innate magical treasures? Inside the map bag, there was monstrous demonic qi circulating. The reason was unknown and he did not know what kind of map it contained. Ning Fan did not know what kind of powerful wine was contained in the jade wine pot. Just a trace of wine fragrance wafted out and it made Ning Fan's rain sovereign realm improve a little. It was actually some kind of immortal wine that could increase the power of the rain sovereign realm. Putting aside the materials and the map, Ning Fan was determined to get the immortal wine. To him who had just broken through to the middle realm of the rain sovereign realm, it would be extremely beneficial. Ning Fan tried to open the heavenly Tao box, the map bag and the jade wine pot, but he realized that it was extremely difficult to open them. It turned out that the higher the grade of the treasure box, the stronger the restrictions on it. It was not an easy task to open them in a short period of time. Even with Ning Fan's cultivation base, he still needed a long time to open them. Ning Fan tried again, wanting to keep the 3 items into his storage pouch. However, he realized that he could not do it. It was as if he could not keep the treasures before the enemy arrived. Only after the enemy arrived would the sovereign heavenly map allow him to keep the treasures. Sure enough, I can only wait for the enemy to arrive. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a wooden light. Then, he sat down cross-legged on the ground as if nothing had happened, protecting the 3 treasures. After waiting for an unknown period of time, the world of the sovereign heavenly map suddenly rippled. Then, the formation marks of the descent ceremony emerged continuously and spread across heaven and earth. At the moment when the formation marks were completely completed, an ear-piercing dragon roar resounded across heaven and earth. A gigantic dragon that was condensed from green rainwater broke through the formation light and charged towards Ning Fan. This rain dragon was too massive. It was holding a green dragon pearl in its mouth. That dragon pearl alone was already as large as an emperor-grade cultivation planet, let alone the entire body of the dragon. Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly solemn. This rain dragon gave him a tremendous pressure. However, the source of the pressure was not from the body of the rain dragon but from the top of its head. There was an elderly man standing there with a faint smile on his face. His eyes were half closed. The elderly man's body was illusory. He was also condensed from the rain. His entire body had already become one with the rain. Based on this point alone, Ning Fan's current cultivation base was obviously far inferior to the elderly man. I wonder which fellow Taoist has drawn the sovereign heavenly map to me. I am true monarch North Sea. I have specially come to this world to congratulate fellow Taoist for ascending to the sovereign realm. Although the old man's words were polite, his eyes were not polite at all. There was a hidden iciness in them. It was obvious that he had come with ill intentions and was not here to congratulate. Perfected Lord Beihai had descended following the guidance of the heavenly map, and the process of his descent was similar to a point-to-point teleportation. He wasn't sure where he had been teleported to, but he had the vague feeling that he was still in the northern heaven, not some other plane. In other words, the old monster who cultivated the rain palm and drew down the sovereign heavenly diagram is a cultivator from the northern sky, just like me? Strange, I've never heard of any eccentrics in the lands of the northern heaven who cultivate rain like me. The fish lord's Tao is related to rain, but although he is strong, he has not been able to grasp the position for some reason. The person who cultivated the position of rain shouldn't be him, but who could it be? True Lord Beihai arrived on the dragon. He stood on the dragon's head and looked down slowly. He wanted to see who had done it. If he hadn't seen it, he wouldn't have known, but the moment he saw it, he was shocked. How could it be you? This was impossible. When you defeated the immortal stone, you were clearly not in the rain palm position, but now you have. How long has it been? It turned out that this so-called perfected Lord Beihai was actually the sect master of the water sect. So fellow Taoist is called perfected Lord Beihai. I thought it would be more appropriate to call you the sect master of the water sect. Even though it was his first time meeting the sect master of the water sect, he could still recognize him with the slight reaction from the heaven-battling jade umbrella he was carrying. Hee. You can call me sect master or Beihai. It's just an empty title. You can call me whatever you want. On the other hand, I'm very curious whether I should call you fellow Taoist Ning Fan or fellow Taoist Zhao Jian, an ancient great cultivator. Hee. What a benevolent and righteous Zhao Jian. Everyone in the world thinks that you are an ancient great cultivator, but I know that you are just a mere immortal king realm cultivator. I know that you have some capabilities. Initially, I didn't want to fight you on the eve of the grand competition. However, since we've met each other this time, I can only fight you. True Lord Beihai's spirit sense scanned the heavenly Tao box and the paper pouch below him. He did not know what was inside them, so they did not arouse his interest. However, when his spirit sense scanned the jade wine pot, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. This is actually an immortal wine that can improve the sovereign realm of rain. Even though he was a titled realm cultivator and not a sovereign realm cultivator, he had already come into contact with a trace of the origin of Tao Law when he reached his level. He could use the power of the origin of Tao Law. As long as they have the same origin, this item could greatly improve the power of his titled realm of rain. He was determined to get this item. As for the other two items, he did not really care about them. It would be great if he could snatch them, but it would be fine if he could not. Ning Fan did not know, but he knew that he was not the only water element old monster who would be moved by the sovereign heavenly map in the entire illusionary world. Those people might also come. He could ignore a single Ning Fan. However, if those people also come, he would have to make a choice. Otherwise, he would not even have the confidence to get his hands on the jade wine pot. Fortunately, I'm in the northern heaven and I'm the closest to Ning Fan. That's why I'm the first to arrive. I can snatch the jade wine pot before the others arrive. No matter how bold this Ning Fan is, he won't dare to go against me openly. True Lord Beihai did not plan to waste any more time. With a thought in his mind, he directly rode on the giant rain dragon and crashed towards the ground where Ning Fan was standing. The power of the collision was like an imperial-grade starfield falling on the ground. The rain intent was like Daozi, making Ning Fan's face hurt. Ning Fan was inwardly shocked by the scene. He initially thought that after he broke through to the sovereign realm, the difference between his rain intent and true Lord Beihai's would not be too big. However, he did not expect that his opponent's rain intent was actually this strong. It was at least 30% stronger than him. Unfortunately, his opponent's attack with rain was precisely countered by one of his treasures. Even though your rain intent is strong, I have the umbrella that you dream of. If you want to snatch my item, just this bit of rain intent is not enough. Bang! As soon as Ning Fan's voice fell, the rain dragon crashed into the ground. The entire world of the heavenly map shook violently. The ground gave out a loud rumble and shattered into countless pieces. True Lord Beihai's eyes narrowed slightly. He did not believe that Ning Fan would be hurt by this bit of rain intent. After all, Ning Fan had the supreme treasure of rain cultivators that he dreamed of getting back. As expected, in the middle of the broken land, Ning Fan was holding a green jade umbrella. He was completely unscathed as he blocked all the falling rain. Not a single drop of rain could get close to him. Behind him were 3 treasures that were also unscathed. Roar! The rain dragon let out a furious roar. The rainwater in the universe immediately turned into immortal rain swords and shot towards Ning Fan. However, none of the rain swords could hurt the corner of Ning Fan's clothes. Rain was still rain. Even if it turned into swords, it was still rain. In the end, it would still be blocked by the umbrella. The umbrella was the superior of rain. It was an absolute restraint. Humph. I didn't expect you to have such a high level of rapport with your magic treasures even though you have just obtained the heaven-battling jade umbrella not long ago. You've actually become one with the umbrella. Unfortunately, you don't know that this heaven-battling jade umbrella has been an item of my water sect for generations. Don't you think it's too arrogant of you to fight me with the item of my water sect? Rain technique, umbrella sealing order. As true monarch Beihai let out a cold laugh, something strange happened. At this moment, countless rain patterns suddenly appeared on the surface of the heaven-battling jade umbrella. Those patterns were formed by raindrops when Ning Fan used the umbrella to block the rain. Be it the ramming rain dragons or the immortal rain swords, they were all feints. True Lord Beihai's real purpose was to make those rain patterns land on the umbrella. Heaven-battling jade umbrella, come back now. As true Lord Beihai gave an order, the heaven-battling jade umbrella immediately broke free from Ning Fan's hand and flew back to him. This person actually forcefully seized the control of the jade umbrella from Ning Fan's hands with the umbrella sealing order. Ning Fan's expression changed. He looked rather shocked as if he did not expect true Lord Beihai to have such an ability. Seeing Ning Fan's astonished expression, true Lord Beihai faintly felt that something was wrong. He was also good at sensing things. He kept feeling that Ning Fan's surprised expression was a little fake and it was not sincere. Could it be? True Lord Beihai glanced at the heaven-battling jade umbrella that flew back to him as ordered. All of a sudden, he understood something. His eyes were filled with shock and coldness. The heaven-battling jade umbrella had clearly flown to his front but he did not use his hand to catch it. Instead, he made a sudden move. With a flick of his finger, several rain slashes flew out from his fingertips and bombarded the heaven-battling jade umbrella. At the moment he made his move, the heaven-battling jade umbrella also shone with a ferocious light. The umbrella sealing order on its surface shattered the rain patterns with a bang. Then, countless raindrops that turned into fine needles flew out from the umbrella and pierced towards true Lord Beihai. If true Lord Beihai were to be careless for even a moment, he would be pierced by these rain needles. Although the power of these rain needles did not seem strong, they were imbued with a trace of palm-rank poison. If he is really pierced by them, he would certainly suffer. Fortunately, he did not have any carelessness. Be it the rain needles or the jade umbrella, all of them were repelled by his slashes. The spiritual light of the jade umbrella dimmed a little and it flew back to Ning Fan. Obviously, the power of the rain slashes that true Lord Beihai casually threw out was not weak. It could even slightly damage a mid-grade innate magic treasure. If this person goes all out, how powerful would he be? It seems like I have underestimated you in the past. It's my first time meeting someone who can make the umbrella sealing order lose its effectiveness. I really don't know what kind of demonic technique you used on this umbrella to make it so obedient that it even dares to disobey the orders of my water sect. True Lord Beihai said coldly. This time, he was really infuriated. He had long known that the heaven-battling jade umbrella was in Ning Fan's hands. However, he was not in a hurry to get it back because he was confident that with the umbrella sealing order, he could retrieve it whenever he wanted. However, reality gave him a hard slap in the face. Ning Fan actually used some unknown method to make the umbrella sealing order lose its effectiveness. Now, Other than killing Ning Fan for real, he could not think of any other method to perfectly retrieve the heaven-battling jade umbrella. Ning Fan could kill a quasi-Saint Realm expert. If it's not necessary, he would not be bothered to provoke another enemy. However, if it's for the sake of the heaven-battling jade umbrella, he really wanted to kill Ning Fan this time. Ning Fan remained silent, turning a deaf ear to True Lord Beihai's exclamation. Inwardly, however, he was secretly feeling pity. True Lord Beihai actually saw through such a good opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Isn't this old man a little too cautious? Could it be that he is born in the year of the rabbit? Compared to his cautiousness, his strength was still acceptable to Ning Fan. After all, True Lord Beihai did not come with his true body. It was just a trace of his divine sense. His strength was only about 1/5 of his true body, which was equivalent to a mid-upper level first-level quasi-Saint Realm expert. Ning Fan was confident that he could win against him after a hard battle. However, the problem was that True Lord Beihai might not be the only one who came. If there are other experts at the same level as True Lord Beihai, things would be troublesome. Both of them wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. Just as they were about to continue fighting, they suddenly stopped. They had no choice but to stop because more people were coming. If they continue to fight now, wouldn't they be the fisherman who benefits from it? At this moment, the rain in the world of the heavenly diagram suddenly condensed into snowflakes. Amidst the swirling snowflakes, a golden shadow appeared in a flash and turned into a giant Buddha, standing between heaven and earth. That giant Buddha also came with his divine sense. His divine sense was not any weaker than True Lord Beihai's. Amitabha. The heavenly diagram's reward is given to those who are fated to get it. The fated ones haven't arrived yet and you two are already fighting each other. Aren't you a little too hasty? Oh. The first one to arrive is actually fellow Taoist Beihai. Could it be that the one who drew the heavenly diagram here is a cultivator from the northern heaven? Otherwise, the first one to arrive should be fellow Taoist Jun Wu, who is the strongest among the water cultivators in the dream realm. The giant Buddha chanted the name of Buddha and said with a compassionate expression. However, he himself probably did not believe that he was truly compassionate. If he really was compassionate, why would he bother to get involved in this mess and increase his negative karma? 8 Frigid Hell Buddha. True Lord Beihai's expression immediately turned unpleasant when he saw who it was. Theoretically, the strength of the 8 Frigid Hell Buddha was almost on par with him. However, this Buddha was not a Buddhist title but an ice palm position. Using rain to fight ice, the result would be the rain turning into snow in this world. True Lord Beihai knew very well that unless his title of rain was far stronger than the other party's ice palm position, he would definitely be at a disadvantage if he fought against him. Rain, snow, ice. True Lord Beihai was not the only one who came. Ning Fan was already mentally prepared for this. Thus, he was not too surprised. What moved him was this person's Tao of ice and snow. At this moment, Ning Fan seemed to have seen another reincarnation of rain, another kind of fate. Rain and cloud can be the source of each other. Rain, ice, and snow seem to be the same as well. The 3 states of water are ice, water and cloud chi, aren't they? Originally, Ning Fan thought that he had seen the path to grand completion of the rain palm position and he thought that he had understood the rain. However, at this moment, he realized that he did not really understand the rain. What he knew was just superficial knowledge. The end of the superficial knowledge was the true source of the rain. Starting from that source, the rain could have countless lives. It did not have to turn into clouds and fall into the sea. Oh. Is this fellow Taoist the one who drew the heavenly diagram down? You look a little unfamiliar. The 8 Frigid Hell Buddha was looking at Ning Fan below and his expression suddenly changed. There's actually an uninvited guest here. Both he and True Lord Beihai were surprised. Obviously, the person who came next was not part of their plan. I've escaped. A trace of my primordial spirit has actually escaped. Ha ha ha. Young master of emotions, you've miscalculated. Your third mountain can't crush me to death after all. Unfortunately, this trace of my primordial spirit can't come out for too long. This is my only chance to escape with the help of the heavenly diagram. There's not much time left. Seems like I have to end this battle as soon as possible. It was an elderly man with a red face. Ning Fan recognized whose primordial spirit he was the moment he saw him. He was actually the primordial spirit of the drowning Great Emperor. When he kept the Drowning Realm bottle, he had seen a trace of the drowning Great Emperor's primordial spirit that was hidden inside. He remembered that the primordial spirit of the drowning Great Emperor claimed to be the 11th ranked primordial spirit of the drowning Great Emperor. Its cultivation base was only at the peak Immortal King realm. However, the primordial spirit of the drowning Great Emperor was different. It was much stronger than the primordial spirit of the drowning Great Emperor in the past. Its cultivation base was at the Half-Saint realm. Of course, compared to true Lord Beihai and the 8 Arctic Hell Buddha, the primordial spirit of the drowning realm Half-Saint realm did not seem to be a threat. However, that was just on the surface. Somehow, the sense of danger that the drowning Great Emperor gave Ning Fan was even stronger than the two of them. It was really strange. Why does this young man have the chi of the drowning realm bottle? Could it be? Could it be? The drowning Great Emperor saw Ning Fan at first glance. His face was filled with surprise and joy. The heavens are helping me. I didn't expect that I would not only obtain 3 treasures in this trip but also find the drowning realm bottle. With this bottle in hand, the day when I break through the suppression of the 3rd mountain is just around the corner. Ha ha ha. The drowning realm bottle, oh the drowning realm bottle. Why aren't you returning to your position after seeing your master? The drowning Great Emperor was overjoyed. He performed a hand seal and was about to forcefully recall the drowning realm bottle. However, the result made him feel awkward. The drowning realm bottle did not respond. The drowning realm bottle had betrayed its real master and only recognized Ning Fan as its master. This is really interesting. What kind of demonic technique did you use on my bottle to make it insist on betraying its master? As soon as the drowning Great Emperor arrived, he had already tasted the shock that true sovereign North Sea felt earlier. Thus, he asked coldly. Ning Fan, of course, would not be foolish enough to reveal the truth and tell the drowning Great Emperor that he had obtained the drowning realm bottle's loyalty through chatting with him. His expression turned slightly unpleasant. Even though he was already mentally prepared for the arrival of many enemies, he still felt unprecedentedly serious when he was really surrounded by 3 powerful enemies. If he were to fight one of the 3 clones alone, he would have a high chance of winning. However, if he were to fight 1 against 2, it would be difficult. If he were to fight 1 against 3, it would be a problem for him to even protect himself. Moreover, judging from the tone of the 8 Frigid Hell Buddha, the strongest expert of the water element in the illusionary world had obviously not arrived yet. If that person comes again, it would not be easy for him to protect the 3 treasures this time. He might have to use some of his trump cards. It's actually the drowning Great Emperor who has come personally. We juniors are really lucky to have the chance to witness the glory of an ancient Great Emperor. Fellow Taoist Ba Cold, how about we stop fighting for now? I know you are not interested in that jade wine pot. What you are interested in are the other 2 items. Let's work together and get rid of the others before fellow Taoist Jinwu arrives. After that, we will divide all the treasures. Isn't that a wonderful thing? True Sovereign North Sea actually suggested to work together. However, his target was not the drowning Great Emperor. Obviously, he looked down on the Half-Saint realm cultivation base of the drowning Great Emperor's clone. That's great. The 8 Frigid Hell Buddha agreed. Similarly, he did not mention the drowning Great Emperor at all. It was obvious that he also excluded the drowning Great Emperor from the bottom of his heart. He had no choice. He was an ancient Buddha while the drowning Great Emperor was an ancient devil ancestor. Buddha and devil had always been enemies since ancient times. How could they work together? Work together? Ha ha ha. Only the weak will gather together. I prefer to travel thousands of li alone. Not to mention that there are only you juniors here, I have nothing to be afraid of even if there are thousands of troops in front of me. The drowning great emperor did not bother to talk nonsense with true monarch Beihai and the 8 frigid Buddha at all. He suddenly put his palms together and the entire world of the heavenly painting was instantly drowned by the monstrous waves. This person is clearly just a half-step sage realm cultivator. Why is it that a casual attack of his is so powerful? This doesn't make sense. True monarch Beihai and the 8 frigid Buddha's expressions changed. They knew that they had underestimated the true strength of the drowning great emperor. They had really underestimated the strength of an ancient great emperor by using the cultivation base of the Dharma ending era as the standard. The drowning spirit clone is actually able to use the drowning realm technique, which is not any weaker than the drowning vase. If my true self comes here and kills people with the drowning vase, wouldn't it be even more terrifying? Ning Fan's eyes became even more solemn. He no longer cared about the fact that the drowning vase had yet to be repaired. At once, he took out the drowning vase and absorbed all the waves within 1,000 zhang around him, preventing any of them from getting close to him. The drowning vase constantly let out a sorrowful wail. Obviously, it was extremely difficult for it to face such a powerful water attack head-on since it had yet to be repaired. Its spiritual light became dimmer and dimmer. Upon seeing this, Ning Fan felt guilty. His opponent was clearly just a vase. However, after going through a few life and death situations, he still could not bear to let this vase worsen his injuries. After the incident with the god exterminating shield, deep in his heart, he had already unconsciously regarded this vase as a companion who would share life and death with him. Thus, he naturally could not bear to hurt it. Seeing that the drowning vase was on the verge of being destroyed, Ning Fan had no choice but to put it away again. As a result, the surrounding waves immediately rushed towards him again. The drowning great emperor even used the water escape technique to ignore the impact of the waves and dash towards Ning Fan. The drowning great emperor's body was emitting demonic blood steam. It was the blood steam of the first stage of ancestral atavism. Give it to me. Otherwise, die. The drowning great emperor said arrogantly. He did not put Ning Fan in his eyes at all. Did he know who Ning Fan was? Why would he care who Ning Fan was? Which one of the devil ancestors who came from the devil conferral peak was not arrogant? He had the ancestral atavism in his hands. If anyone provokes him, he would completely return to his ancestral atavism and kill all the juniors in front of him. In the past, even Zhang Qing could not kill him. These juniors in front of him were nothing. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with pity. In the past few years, he had relied on the drowning great emperor's vase to save his life several times. As the saying went, when drinking water, one should remember its source. It was not that he did not have any gratitude towards the drowning great emperor. However, all of this gratitude was erased the moment the drowning great emperor unleashed his killing intent towards him. The one who helped him was the drowning vase and not the drowning great emperor. He could treat the drowning great emperor as his comrade, but he really could not have any good feelings towards the drowning great emperor. Since he was an enemy, he would not show any mercy. Boom! Under the deep sea, amidst the turbulent undercurrents, Ning Fan summoned the ocean-defying sword and slashed at the drowning great emperor, forcing him to retreat. Could this sword be? The drowning great emperor stabilized his body and vaguely recognized the ocean-defying sword. At once, he was enraged. How could he not be enraged? Even if he used his toes to think, he would know how Ning Fan created the ocean-defying sword. He must have used the eternal inextinguishable rain in his vase. Those were his things. All of them were his things. However, Ning Fan had taken advantage of them in the end. His killing intent towards Ning Fan instantly skyrocketed by 10 times, 100 times. In the deep sea, there was also a pair of eyes that noticed the chi of the ocean-defying sword. It was the 8 frigid hell Buddha. At first, he was still hostile towards Ning Fan. However, the moment the sword appeared, he actually felt a sense of protection towards Ning Fan. Why? Because it was the sword of a high-grade disciple of the chaotic Kun sacred sect. The chaotic Kun sacred sect was the ancestor of all Buddhist cultivators in the world. It was the holy land in the hearts of all Buddhist cultivators. The person who wields this sword is no different from the true Buddha in the hearts of true Buddhist cultivators. As for the 8 frigid hell Buddha, even though he was not a kind person, he had always claimed to be an orthodox Buddhist cultivator. How could an orthodox Buddhist cultivator allow their Buddha to be harmed by others? He, the 8 frigid hell Buddha, would not dare to snatch the treasures of the Buddha today. If this matter is spread out, how would he continue to live in the Western heaven? His goal had changed. Today, he wanted to protect the Buddha here. As a result, when the Great Water Emperor charged at Ning Fan again, the 8 frigid hell Buddha suddenly stood in front of Ning Fan, making him feel puzzled. Oh my Buddha! This disciple was late. Please forgive me, Buddha. As soon as he finished speaking, the 8 frigid hell Buddha replaced Ning Fan and fought against the Great Water Emperor. True monarch North Sea was speechless. He was extremely speechless. Even though he already knew that the temporary alliance of the cultivation world was not trustworthy, he did not expect that the 8 frigid hell Buddha would betray him in a split second and join forces with Ning Fan. Ning Fan was speechless. Ning Fan only felt puzzled. He who was connected to all living beings could clearly sense the kindness and malice of others. What the hell? Just a moment ago, the 8 frigid hell Buddha did not hide his hostility towards him at all. Why did he suddenly change his mind and become incomparably respectful towards him? Moreover, why did he address him as Buddha? I'm the same as the Great Water Emperor. We're both ancient devils. I don't think they have anything to do with the Buddha. Isn't this misunderstanding a little too subtle? Just as the 8 frigid hell Buddha and the Great Water Emperor were engaged in a fierce battle, the seawater that the Great Water Emperor summoned suddenly began to decrease rapidly, as if it was being devoured by some living creature. In just a few breaths' time, the seawater that flooded the entire world was drunk by that gigantic creature. Burp a tortoise that was 10 times larger than the rain dragon let out a burp that was even louder than the void storm. The stench that it exhaled directly blew the Great Water Emperor and the 8 frigid hell Buddha several 100,000 zhang away. You guys fight slowly. I won't disturb you nor will I snatch your things. I've just drunk enough water. Now, I'm going to eat the heavenly map. I'll make this clear first. I don't care how you guys mess around. However, if you snatch my heavenly map and eat it, I'll eat all of you. The current Great Emperor Zhenwu had arrived. Chapter 12:18. This giant tortoise was really arrogant. Everyone else came here to fight for the Heavenly Scroll's reward, but this tortoise actually planned to eat the Heavenly Scroll. Hearing this, the flooding emperor and the others' expressions changed. The sovereign Heavenly Scroll could be eaten? They had never heard of such a thing. They had never seen such a thing recorded in any ancient book. Even if such a thing existed, no one had actually tried it, right? The celestial force contained in the sovereign Heavenly Scroll was too great. Anyone unrelated to it would be heavily injured if they tried to get close to it, let alone eat it. What was the difference between a mortal eating a treasure? The supreme celestial force in the sovereign Heavenly Scroll's stomach would explode. At the same time, the sovereign Heavenly Scroll contained the will of heaven and represented the heavenly Tao itself. Eating the sovereign Heavenly Scroll meant going against the heavens. Therefore, even if a normal person had the ability to eat the sovereign Heavenly Scroll, they wouldn't rashly go against the heavens. Nonsense. You are such a hypocrite, you thieving tortoise. You are obviously here to fight for the Heavenly Scroll's reward just like us, but you lie and say you are here to eat the sovereign Heavenly Scroll. Do you think I will believe such a clumsy lie? The flooding emperor narrowed his eyes at the giant tortoise and snorted coldly. His expression was filled with fear because the giant tortoise's strength was too terrifying. A single burp could blow him and the 8 frosty Buddha tens of thousands of meters away. What kind of strength was this? Even if this giant tortoise wasn't an ancient great cultivator, it was definitely very close to it. Facing such a powerful enemy, the Flooding Emperor knew that unless he went berserk and completely destroyed his celestial nature, he wouldn't be a match for this tortoise. He had to be careful. What does it have to do with me whether you believe me or not? As long as you don't disturb me from eating. The giant tortoise was too arrogant. When it spoke, it didn't even look at the Flooding Emperor. It didn't put him in its eyes at all. It didn't even put the heavenly Tao in its eyes, so why would it care about the Flooding Emperor and the Flooding Emperor? Under the shocked gazes of the Flooding Emperor and the others, the giant tortoise actually opened its mouth and bit down on the world formed by the sovereign heavenly scroll. The giant tortoise was eating the sovereign heavenly scroll just like how the heavenly hound ate the moon. With this bite, a large piece of the sky map's interface collapsed into pieces and was swallowed into his stomach. The fragments contained unimaginably large amounts of celestial force. As soon as they entered the turtle's stomach, they immediately wreaked havoc in the turtle's body and exploded, causing a huge bloody hole that was like a rift in the starry sky to be blasted open on the turtle's enormous body. The gigantic tortoise let out a miserable shriek, appearing to be in extreme pain. After all, it was only a clone that had descended here, and not his true body. Wanting to devour the sovereign heavenly diagram without suffering any injuries was no different from a fool's dream. Not good. The Jinwu old turtle was really here to eat the sky map. This lunatic. True monarch North Sea was shocked, and his expression turned ugly for a moment. Like the Floodwater Emperor, he didn't believe the giant tortoise's words. But now, he believed half of it. At this moment, the sky map world was destroyed, and the entire world was beginning to collapse. This was not an ordinary world collapse. Given the enormous amount of immortal energy contained within the sovereign heavenly diagram, if it were to collapse, the resulting shockwave would be enough to annihilate ancient cultivators. It hurts. But this heavenly map of Great Master Rain is really delicious. It was not in vain that I risked my injuries to take a bite. This is not a bad deal. The tortoise laughed greedily. He was obviously in a sorry state after being blasted by the immortal energy, but he was still laughing in his heart, as if he did not care about the injuries on his body at all. As soon as he activated his chi and blood, the aura force of the giant tortoise's enormous chi and blood immediately shook heaven and earth, shocking the Floodwater Emperor and the others. What an enormous amount of chi and blood! Even if the chi and blood of everyone on the scene were added together, they would probably not even reach 1% of the giant tortoise's chi and blood. One should know that this was just a clone of the giant tortoise. If its true body came here, wouldn't its chi and blood be even more terrifying? Ning Fan, who had seen many monsters with chi and blood, had the most intuitive judgment about the chi and blood of the giant tortoise. The chi and blood of this tortoise's clone is already not inferior to the corpse slave king. Therefore, the chi and blood of its true body must be even more terrifying. In terms of the total amount of chi and blood, it might be able to compete with the blood god Wu Yu. What are the benefits of having an enormous amount of chi and blood? The benefits are just too great. Previously, when the giant tortoise ate the heavenly map of gluttony, its internal organs were all destroyed by the immortal power of the heavenly map. Its body was blasted with hideous bloody holes. Such injuries were enough to endanger the life of any quasi-saint realm expert. However, what about this tortoise? On the surface, its injuries seemed to be very severe. In fact, its chi was not in any disorder. Obviously, such injuries were almost insignificant to it. The giant tortoise's miserable cries just now were because its body was in too much pain from the explosion. It had nothing to do with the severity of its injuries. As expected, as the chi and blood of the tortoise surged, the flesh and blood of the hideous bloody holes on its body were reconstructed after a few breaths. No, it could not be said to have completely recovered. Compared to before, the appearance of the giant tortoise seemed to have changed a little. On its shell, there was an additional dazzling stripe. At first, the stripe was eye-catching. However, as its brilliance faded, it gradually became no different from an ordinary stripe. However, it was not an ordinary stripe. It was the Tao mark of rain that contained a trace of the power of the heavenly map. True Lord Beihai and 8 Frost Buddha were shocked. How could they not be shocked? There was not just one such stripe on the back of the giant tortoise. There were already thousands and tens of thousands of them. Although the two of them recognized the giant tortoise, they did not know much about it. In the past, when they saw the giant tortoise, they only thought that its stripe was ordinary. Now that they saw the Tao mark of rain on the back of the giant tortoise, how could they not guess that the other stripes on the back of the giant tortoise were similar? This was definitely not the first time that the giant tortoise ate the heavenly map. This old fellow had eaten countless heavenly maps or something similar to them. The wounds disappeared and its body was no longer in pain. The giant tortoise revealed an expression of enjoyment again. It opened its mouth that was like a black hole and bit down again. The stench in its mouth spread out and turned into yellow smoke that filled the world. Unfortunately, it did not bite the interface of the heavenly map this time. This was because its actions were stopped by the flooding emperor. Evil creature. I haven't even gotten the treasure and you want to destroy this world and force me to leave. It wasn't easy for me to find a chance to escape. How can I let you ruin it? The Floodwater Emperor was the first to charge at the giant tortoise. He pressed down with his hand, and the void of the palm of the water palm turned into a blue rope that wrapped itself around the giant tortoise's mouth a few thousand times. He was trying to stop the giant tortoise from opening its mouth again for a moment and a half. The giant tortoise, who was originally happy because of the food, was instantly enraged. He clearly said that he did not want anyone to disturb his meal, but the flooding emperor still did it. He was very angry. He was going to fulfill his promise and eat everyone here. But he could not open his mouth. So uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. What rope was this? Why was it tied so tightly? He was even angrier. Because he was too angry, the giant tortoise's body suddenly started to expand. It became even larger, doubling in size. This kind of enlargement was not a normal transformation of the laws. Its strength actually increased at the same rate. The strength of the giant tortoise's jaw became even more terrifying. He tried to force his mouth open, but because he used too much strength, the tortoise's face almost turned red. But the effect was very obvious. Under the tortoise's brute force, the void rope whimpered and began to break. The rope broke faster and faster until it was out of control. In just 10 breaths of time, the giant tortoise had broken off all the ropes in its mouth and started to curse. I am angry. You are the bastards. You dare to curse me and tie me up. I will eat you all. The giant tortoise's murderous intent locked onto everyone here. It opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of saliva that drowned the flooding emperor and the others. Compared to the giant tortoise's giant body, it was really just a small mouthful of saliva. But to the flooding emperor and the others, it was not saliva, it was an ocean filled with bad breath. It had a shocking corrosive effect. Impossible. My void rope is not something that can be broken by brute force. Just how terrifying is this tortoise's strength? Could it be that it has touched the threshold of breaking through with brute force? The flooding emperor suppressed the shock in his heart. Now that the giant tortoise had spat out a vast ocean to counterattack, he had to defend himself immediately. How would he dare to be distracted? The others were also affected by the giant tortoise's anger. All of them were under attack. Thus, they also needed to defend themselves. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's obviously fellow Taoist Water who has offended fellow Taoist Jin Wu. Why do you have to implicate us and let us be spat at as well? Don't be afraid, Buddha. With me here, I will certainly not let Buddha suffer any harm. The Ba-cold Buddha stood in front of Ning Fan to protect him as usual. When the ocean filled with bad breath approached them, the Ba-cold Buddha raised its hand and summoned the 18 prayer beads in its hand. They turned into 18 gigantic ice mountains and stood in 18 directions around Ning Fan. As such, all the approaching waves were instantly frozen into ice. None of them could get close to Ning Fan's body. Seeing this, Ning Fan kept the sea-calming divine needle back into his sleeve and looked at the Ba-cold Buddha with a thoughtful look. Then, he shifted his gaze and looked at the giant tortoise with a hint of coldness. The one who provoked the giant tortoise was obviously the flooding emperor. However, the giant tortoise also vented its anger on Ning Fan and attacked him indiscriminately. The giant tortoise's actions had really provoked Ning Fan. Everyone came to bully him. Did they think that he was made of mud? Can I call you fellow Taoist Ba Cold? It was Ning Fan's first time speaking to the Ba Cold Buddha. He could communicate with all living beings. Even though he did not know the reason, he could see that the Ba Cold Buddha really did not harbor any hostility towards him. Thus, his tone became much friendlier. Seeing Ning Fan take the initiative to ask him, the Ba Cold Buddha immediately stood up straight and said respectfully, "Buddha, you can just call me Ba Hanzi. I don't deserve to be called fellow Taoist. I am not the Buddha that you mentioned. On the contrary, I am an ancient devil." Ancient devil? The Ba Cold Buddha was stunned at first. After carefully studying Ning Fan, it nodded its head. I see. Buddha has actually turned into a Buddha from a devil? The ancient people say that one can become a Buddha after laying down the butcher's knife. It sounds simple, but it is actually extremely difficult. For Buddha to be able to do this, I really admire you. Ning Fan felt that he was suffering from a communication disorder recently. There were always some people who could not understand what he said. Si San's sovereign was one of them. Ba Cold Buddha was a second-level quasi-sacred realm expert after all. However, he actually could not understand human language. The Ba Cold Buddha was not an idiot after all. At this moment, he could also vaguely see that Ning Fan did not really like the way he addressed him as Buddha. The only thing he recognized was that Ning Fan's ocean-defying sword was real, and he indeed had the identity of a high-grade disciple of the chaotic Leviathan beast. Since the other party did not like being addressed as Buddha, there was no harm in changing the way he addressed him. After all, Buddha was in the heart and not in words. Forget it. I can trust you for the time being, right? Ning Fan said helplessly. Buddha. No, great immortal, if you have any instructions for me, just tell me. I will certainly do my best to fulfill it. This time, he changed the way he addressed Ning Fan to Great Immortal. I'm going to clean up the invading enemies. You, stay here and help me look after the things. After that, you can choose one of the 3 treasures except for the jade wine pot. It turned out that Ning Fan wanted to ask Ba Cold Buddha to help him look after the treasures behind him. The 3 treasures could not be kept for the time being, and they were ownerless. If there is no one to look after them, they would be snatched away by true monarch Northern Sea and the others in the blink of an eye. This matter seems a little. Ba Cold Buddha felt a little awkward. His true body was a second-level quasi-sacred realm expert after all. However, Ning Fan actually asked him to do something as trivial as looking after the treasures. This was not in line with his lofty status as a quasi-sacred realm expert. It was not that he was unwilling to help Ning Fan. It was an honor for any orthodox Buddhist cultivator to be able to help heavenly immortal Hun Kuan. However, he wanted to help Ning Fan with a bigger favor, and it was not something as trivial as looking after the treasures. Fine. Other than the jade wine pot, the other 2 treasures will belong to you. Since you can cooperate with true monarch Northern Sea because of this condition, you can also cooperate with me. It's decided then. Ning Fan did not care much about the treasures other than the jade wine pot. As soon as he opened his mouth, he gave all of them to Ba Cold Buddha. He thought that Ba Cold Buddha was hesitating because the reward was too low. As soon as Ba Cold Buddha heard that, he became anxious. It was his honor to help heavenly immortal Hun Kuan. How would he dare to take Ning Fan's treasures? Even if it's a gift from an elder, he would not dare to accept it. He knew that Ning Fan had misunderstood his intention. Just as he was about to explain, Ning Fan had already soared into the sky and joined the battle between the Water Emperor, the giant tortoise, and true monarch Northern Sea. Ba Cold Buddha instinctively wanted to follow Ning Fan and protect him. However, Ning Fan asked him to look after the treasures. He could not disobey Ning Fan's order. In the end, Ba Cold Buddha could only let out a bitter smile. His 100 zhang giant body shrank to the size of an ordinary human. He sat cross-legged beside the three treasures and really began to look after them. When Heavenly Immortal is in danger, I will take action. I can't really ignore Heavenly Immortal just to look after some worldly possessions. This Heavenly Immortal seems to be just at the Immortal King realm, right? It's really too dangerous for me to join the battle recklessly. True Monarch Northern Sea was also spat on by the giant tortoise. With his abilities, it was certainly impossible for him to be hit by the ocean of saliva. However, he was truly enraged. At that moment, he no longer cared about snatching Ning Fan's treasures. He wanted to teach this detestable giant tortoise a lesson first. Old Tortoise Shenwu. Those who provoke you will be drowned in the water. Why did you spit on me? Do you think I'm a pushover? True Monarch Northern Sea flicked his fingers and sent out countless slashes of rain, cutting the ocean of saliva into pieces. Then, he stepped on the rain dragons and rammed into the giant tortoise's enormous body again and again. The body of the giant tortoise was too huge. This led to a problem. The area that he needed to defend was too large. The speed of his body movement was also very slow. When the enemy's attack comes, he basically could not dodge at all. He could only helplessly endure the attacks. His tortoise shell was hard, but the four legs and the tail that were exposed outside were soft. The rain dragon specifically chose these places to ram into the giant tortoise. Every time it rammed into the giant tortoise, it would feel pain. With its enormous blood and chi, the injuries from the collisions were really insignificant. However, it was painful. The giant tortoise was furious. He lifted his clumsy giant leg, trying to stomp the rain dragons that were like small snakes to him. If he could stomp on them, he would be able to stomp True Monarch Northern Sea and his dragon into meat paste with just a stomp with his brute force. However, the rain dragons were agile and fast. How could they be stepped on by the clumsy giant tortoise? The feeling of not being able to hit a fly no matter how hard he tried almost made the giant tortoise's lungs explode. What made him even angrier was that the drowned Great Emperor was also as annoying as a fly. He kept creating giant palm imprints which made him groan in pain. Ancient Devil Sea Steaming Imprint. The drowned Great Emperor transformed into his true ancient devil form. His essence chi turned into a giant palm and hit the soft parts of the giant tortoise's body again and again. The palm imprints were obviously condensed by water element power. However, they were much hotter than many fire element abilities. Every time the palm imprints hit the giant tortoise, the blood in his body would evaporate and his blood and chi would weaken bit by bit. The giant tortoise wanted to stomp on the drowned Great Emperor. However, the drowned Great Emperor also had heaven-defying speed. How could he be stomped on? I'm so angry. All of you are hindering me. All of you are bullying me. I'm angry. I'm really angry. Titled Technique, True Martial Water Prison. The giant tortoise chanted and all the water energy in the world suddenly gathered towards the drowned Great Emperor. The drowned Great Emperor was a Water Palm Realm Great Emperor. Seeing that his opponent was attacking him with water energy, he immediately used his palm position to try and disperse his opponent's technique. However, he couldn't do it. In a battle between two Palm Realm Great Emperors, the stronger one could easily crush the weaker one. Although the drowned Great Emperor and the giant tortoise weren't Palm Realm Great Emperors, there was still a difference in their usage of water. He was the weaker one, and the giant tortoise was the stronger one. Therefore, even though he used his palm position, he could only disperse 70% of the water energy that the giant tortoise gathered. The remaining 30% still hit him. Once the water energy hit him, it immediately turned into a water prison that was 1,000 miles in diameter and trapped the drowned Great Emperor inside. Once inside the water prison, the drowned Great Emperor discovered that his ancient devil essence was completely sealed. He was also powerless and couldn't use much of his physical strength. He wanted to force his way out of the water prison. However, the difficulty of breaking out of the water prison from the inside was 10 times harder than breaking it from the outside. In a short period of time, he was trapped in the water prison by the giant tortoise. However, the giant tortoise couldn't kill the drowned Great Emperor either. The blood vapor on the drowned great emperor was too strange. He didn't need to absorb the enemy's blood to heal his injuries. Instead, he only needed to absorb the water energy in the air to heal his injuries. How strange. Although the drowned great emperor was temporarily trapped, there was water everywhere in the water prison. As long as there was water, he wouldn't die. The giant tortoise wanted to activate the undercurrent in the water prison to kill the drowned great emperor but realized that it couldn't be done. Forget it, I'll just trap as many as I can. Even if I can't kill the drowned great emperor, I can still kill the annoying true monarch of North Sea. The giant tortoise used the same trick again and used the true martial water prison. It gathered endless water energy and swept towards true monarch of North Sea. Seeing the water energy, true monarch of North Sea's expression changed as if he remembered something unfortunate. Then, he sneered and let the water energy hit him as if it didn't exist. True martial old tortoise, you're still as powerful as before. You only used one move to suppress the primeval emperor's avatar. However, I'm different from the drowned great emperor. Your true martial water prison is useless against me. I'm too familiar with you. I know all your moves and I've experienced all of them once. Do you know that the same water element move can't work on me twice? However, true monarch of North Sea didn't move at all. He only muttered something, as if he was secretly activating a protective technique. It was strange. The true martial water prison was powerful enough to trap the drowned great emperor in one move. However, it didn't work on true monarch of North Sea at all. Because the rain dragon was too big, the water prison created by the giant tortoise wasn't a 1,000-mile water prison. Instead, it stretched endlessly and it was hard to see the end. However, for some reason, such a water prison couldn't restrain true monarch of North Sea at all. True monarch of North Sea seemed to be taking a stroll in the park. He rode the rain dragon and swam out of the boundless water prison directly. This scene was as strange as it could get. Seeing that, the giant tortoise sprayed out endless acid rain. The acid rain was made of its stomach acid and was much more acidic than saliva. It could even hurt a sage to be. True monarch of North Sea's title was no match for the giant tortoise's title of true martial. Therefore, he couldn't avoid the acid rain and could only be drenched in it. The giant tortoise's stomach acid could even corrode the world of the sky map. It was indeed powerful. However, when it drenched him, it seemed to be natural rain and didn't hurt him at all. It couldn't be said that it was completely harmless. True monarch of North Sea's spirit was still deeply injured. The stomach acid on his body was too smelly. He remembered the last time he was drenched in stomach acid by the Zhenwu old turtle. After he escaped, he had to recuperate for 30,000 years before he recovered from the corrosion. Another 3 million years later, he finally got rid of the stink from the stomach acid on his body. This was the second time he faced this technique. He wasn't injured, but the stubborn stink would probably follow him for another 3 million years. Strange. Why is my technique ineffective on you? The giant tortoise didn't understand. True monarch of North Sea, on the other hand, was sneering. He had a huge advantage against the true martial old turtle after so many years. He could ignore the various water element techniques that the latter had used in the past. Today, he was going to settle all the old scores with this old turtle. As for the matter of snatching Ning Fan's treasures, it could be postponed for now. Rain technique. Rain dragon soul striking technique. As soon as true monarch of North Sea displayed his technique, the rain dragon under his feet became even more illusory and transparent, as if they had completely lost their physical bodies. Then, they crashed into the shell of the giant tortoise. They didn't crash into the soft part of the giant tortoise but the hardest part of its shell. Is true monarch of North Sea crazy? The giant tortoise was stunned at first. Then, it laughed arrogantly. It laughed at true monarch of North Sea's stupidity. It laughed that true monarch of North Sea's action would only cause it to bleed. However, it miscalculated. True monarch of North Sea's attack penetrated through its shell defense for some unknown reason. Then, it went through its body. After being penetrated by true monarch of North Sea, the giant tortoise's physical body did not feel any pain. However, its true spirit felt a tearing pain. Obviously, true monarch of North Sea's method of penetrating its body was not aimed at its physical body or its massive blood chi. Instead, it directly attacked its true spirit. Even though the shell of the tortoise race was hard, its interior was the softest, especially its demon soul and true spirit. They were the softest and weakest parts of the tortoise. Thus, it could withstand true monarch of North Sea's attack. In this way, true monarch of North Sea managed to severely injure the true spirit of the giant tortoise with just a single attack. Obviously, he was not completely helpless against this blood chi monster. Roar! The giant tortoise was enraged. How many years had it been since it was heavily injured by anyone? With its boundless blood chi, it even dared to eat the heavenly map raw. Unexpectedly, it was severely injured by true monarch of North Sea in just a single attack. Fortunately, even though its true spirit was weak, it had more than one true spirit. The number of stripes on its shell was equal to the number of true spirits he had. I would like to see if you will kill all my true spirits first or if I will eat you first. Titled Weapon, True Martial Snake Head. Even though the giant tortoise was not very smart, it was not hopelessly stupid. Seeing that its mystical ability was ineffective against true monarch of North Sea, it used its Dharma treasure, its titled weapon. Suddenly, its short tortoise tail extended like a snake and lashed towards the illusory true monarch of North Sea like a whip. Unlike the slow speed when the giant tortoise stepped on people, the speed of its tail lashing was as fast as the world's most turbulent water. How could true monarch of North Sea expect the giant tortoise to have such a move? He had not seen this move in the past and thus, it was rather hasty for him to deal with it. The other party's tail lashed out so quickly that true monarch of North Sea could not dodge in time and could only defend on the spot. As the power of true monarch of North Sea's title was activated, the surrounding area suddenly became misty and misty. In the misty rain, 480 ancient temples were faintly discernible in the rain. When the giant tortoise's tail swept over, those ancient temples suddenly moved forward and blocked the path of the giant tortoise's tail, attempting to block it. The ancient temples were smashed one after another by the giant tortoise's tail. However, those destroyed ancient temples ultimately weakened the power of the giant tortoise's tail. Every time an ancient temple was destroyed, the power of the giant tortoise's tail would be weakened a little. When more than 300 ancient temples were destroyed, the giant tortoise finally ran out of power and could not move forward anymore. What kind of defensive mystical ability is this? How can it block my power? The giant tortoise was shocked. Little did it know that true monarch of North Sea was actually more shocked. One must know that when he visited Nantian in the past, he had offended an ancient cultivator from a secret race. At that time, the cultivator's full-powered attack had only destroyed 300 of his ancient temples. This true martial old turtle's power was too terrifying. It actually had such power as well. Even though his avatar had descended and the rain temples were slightly weaker than they actually were, didn't the true martial old turtle's avatar descend as well? Could it be that the original body of the old turtle was already able to compete with some level 3 quasi-saints even though he had yet to reach level 3 quasi-saints? Again. The giant tortoise's tail swept towards true monarch of North Sea again. True monarch of North Sea wanted to use the same trick and reform the shattered rain temples to block in front of him. However, this time, the giant tortoise's attack was not just a simple tail whip. The tortoise's tail suddenly changed when it got close. A ferocious snake head grew out of nowhere at the bottom of the tail. The snake head flicked its tongue and had 2 snake fangs in its mouth. The snake's fangs were not ordinary fangs. The tips of the fangs shone with an ancient sword light that had been passed down since ancient times. The snakehead's biting speed was too fast. True monarch of North Sea did not even see clearly what the snake's fangs were made of. His 480 rain temples were already destroyed by the snakehead along the way. The wounds of the rain temples that were bitten by the snakehead were very strange. They were not like the 2 dots that a snake would have when it bites someone. Instead, they were cut vertically into 3 sections. It was as if the rain temples were cut vertically into 3 sections by someone with 2 immortal swords. Oh no! What kind of snakehead is this? It actually destroyed all 480 of my temples. The snakehead broke through the defenses of the rain temples and approached him in the blink of an eye. An unprecedented feeling of danger spread throughout True Monarch North Sea's body. He had a feeling that if he did not dodge, he would be cut into 3 sections by the snakehead. Rain escape technique. At the critical moment, True Monarch of North Sea used the rain escape technique along with his dragon, turning into rainwater and dissipating. This was the technique that Water Sect was famous for and was extremely suitable for dodging the enemy's attacks. Although he dodged quickly, the rain dragon was still bitten by the snakehead. 2 ferocious wounds were left on the dragon's body and rain blood flowed out. There was even immemorial sword chi in the wounds that could not be removed. It entered the rain dragon's body through the wounds and wreaked havoc within. Roar, this time round, it was the rain dragon's turn to cry out in pain. True Monarch of North Sea's expression was extremely ugly. His 6th dragon had not even stabilized and now, his 5th dragon was injured. His hatred towards the giant tortoise increased by countless times. The giant tortoise was pleased with its successful attack and whipped its tail towards True Monarch North Sea. The snakehead bit down. Now that it had transformed into a snakehead, there would naturally be another snakehead to deal with the enemy. His tortoise head could finally relax and eat to nourish his injured true spirit. He opened his mouth and finally took a second bite of the heavenly diagram world. Then, it took the 3rd bite, the 4th bite. In just a blink of an eye, he had taken more than 10 bites, causing the heavenly diagram world to shake violently. When it shook, some of the spatial fragments could not be maintained and fell off on their own. This was the sign that the world was about to collapse. Seeing this, be it the Great Water Emperor who was trapped in the water prison or True Monarch of North Sea who was being chased by the snakehead, all of them cursed in anger. If the giant tortoise continues to bite, this world would certainly collapse and no one would be able to snatch Ning Fan's things anymore. Humph. A bunch of trash dares to stop me from eating. You really don't know what's good for you. I will eat and sleep whenever I want. Not even the Heavenly Emperor can stop me. What right do you have to stop me? What right do you have to stop me? Now, you have angered me. This time, not only am I going to empty this heavenly diagram world, I am also going to eat all of you. I won't leave a single one of you alive. The giant tortoise was extremely proud of itself. So, you also want to eat me, right? Ning Fan's voice suddenly came from the top of the giant tortoise's head. Unknowingly, he was standing on the head of the giant tortoise. You are that immortal King Realm Jr. who brought down the heavenly diagram. How dare you? How dare you stand on my head? Could it be that you want to poop on my head? You're courting death. The giant tortoise was enraged. It violently shook its head, trying to shake Ning Fan off its head. However, how could it do so? Ning Fan was like a tree that had taken root in the ground. He just casually stood on the top of the giant tortoise's head. However, he stood steadily. No matter how strong the tortoise's brute force was, it could not send him flying. I have always been fair in everything I do. Since you want to eat me, I will eat you too. I have eaten even darker octopus balls before. They taste really good. If you use this turtle to make soup, it seems to be very nourishing as well. As soon as Ning Fan's voice fell, countless gigantic trees suddenly grew from the ground beneath his feet. The giant tortoise's head was originally as large as a continent. At this moment, the continent was filled with towering ancient trees that Ning Fan had planted. Those ancient trees grew in number and eventually, they covered the entire body of the giant tortoise. Looking from afar, the giant tortoise looked like a green cactus that was covered with fine thorns. How dare you? How dare you plant trees on my body? Not good. Among the 5 elements, water is wood. The water element power in my body is being devoured by your wood element power at a crazy rate. Isn't this Junior the Rain Sovereign rank? Why do you have such a high level of wood element power? The giant tortoise was shocked. The higher one's cultivation base was, the more they could see how terrifying Ning Fan's wood element power was. What level of wood element power is this? Wood sovereign rank? Wood sovereign rank? No. That's not right. Even the wood sovereign rank and wood sovereign rank would not be able to devour his water element power so easily. The giant tortoise no longer had the time to deal with true monarch Beihai. It cast him aside and changed the direction of its giant tail, sweeping towards the top of its head. After all, Ning Fan was standing on that spot. This attack of his was going to attack its head as well. As long as it can kill or knock off Ning Fan who is on its head, it would not be a problem even if its head is destroyed once. Who asked it to have such a huge amount of blood and qi? It could instantly regrow its head. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly when his opponent's tail swept towards him. However, he did not dodge it. With his current strength, he would not dare to take the attack of the giant tortoise head-on. After all, it was not an exaggeration to say that this attack was extremely powerful since it could destroy all 480 temples of true monarch Beihai. However, it was different now. He secretly approached the giant tortoise's body and launched a sneak attack. He planted countless trees of godhood on its body. The roots of those trees had already penetrated into the body of the giant tortoise. They were crazily absorbing and devouring the water element power of the giant tortoise, turning it into their own. Since the blood and qi of the giant tortoise was too strong, it did not suffer any serious injuries even though it was directly devoured by the godhood tree. However, it did not mean that Ning Fan's godhood tree was useless. Among the 5 elements, water was wood. It meant that with the help of the water element power, it could make the wood element power stronger. At this moment, Ning Fan felt that his wood element power was unprecedentedly strong. This kind of strength did not originate from his wood element power. Instead, it was because his godhood tree had absorbed the water element power of the giant tortoise. Under the help of the giant tortoise's water element power, Ning Fan's godhood tree was unprecedentedly lush and tenacious. When the giant tortoise's tail swept towards him, Ning Fan did not choose to dodge. Instead, he clasped both of his hands together. All of a sudden, the surrounding trees rose and condensed into thousands of gigantic wooden walls, blocking the path of the giant tortoise's tail. Rumble, the tortoise's tail that could easily destroy 480 temples of true monarch Beihai could not break through Ning Fan's wooden walls. The onlookers were shocked. This is not normal. It's absolutely not normal. Even a cultivator at the Sovereign Wood Realm or titled Wood Realm would not be able to suppress a cultivator at the Sovereign Wood Realm like this. In the giant tortoise's long life, it was not like it had never fought against Sovereign Wood Realm or titled Wood Realm cultivators. However, none of them could directly devour its water element power like Ning Fan did and assimilate it into his own. Ning Fan's wood element was terrifyingly domineering. The suppression it exerted on water cultivators was almost one-sided. What kind of wood element is this? It's not the Sovereign Wood Realm. It's a power of a higher level. Could it be the true source of Tao Law? In the water prison, Great Water Emperor's face was filled with shock. It can't be the true source of Tao Law. Even a second-level quasi-sage like me can only use a small portion of the power of Tao Law. How could this young man completely master the source of Tao Law of the wood element? What this young man used should only be a small amount of the power of Tao Law of the wood element. However, what's even stranger is that it's impossible for a small amount of the power of Tao Law to cause such a suppression on water cultivators. Could it really be the complete source of Tao Law? True monarch Beihai was unwilling to believe it, but he had no choice but to believe it. So this is the insignificant immortal king realm cultivator that I thought he was? He actually withstood the furious attack of the old tortoise Shenwu so easily. Ba Han Buddha, who was in charge of guarding the treasure, wore a shocked expression. He knew that he would not be able to do such a thing, but Ning Fan managed to do it as an immortal king realm cultivator. Is this the power of an immortal king of the chaotic Kun sacred sect? It's really too terrifying. It's fake. All of it is fake. The power of my turtle-snake dual sword combination is not any weaker than a high-grade innate magic treasure. How could you possibly withstand it? I don't believe it. The gigantic tortoise swung its tail at Ning Fan again. The snake head on its tail opened its mouth wide in anger. Its fangs were filled with overwhelming sword intent. Only then did everyone see clearly that the snake fangs of the gigantic tortoise were actually two treasured swords that were close to the high-grade innate magic treasure. The combination of the two swords was comparable to a high-grade innate magic treasure. This was the reason why the snakehead could easily break the 480 temples of true monarch Beihai. Now that the gigantic tortoise was enraged, the power of the two swords skyrocketed. It could be said that the power of the snakehead's attack this time was 30% stronger than before. However, it still failed to break through Ning Fan's heavy wooden walls. This time, Ning Fan not only used the 1,000-layered wooden walls to block the snakehead's attack, but he also imitated it by producing the ropes of his wood element divine spark and tied the gigantic tortoise up like a wooden dumpling. The brute force of the gigantic tortoise was too strong. It could even break the void rope of the Great Water Emperor. However, it could not break Ning Fan's wooden ropes. This was not only related to the water element and the wood element. It was also because the level of the divine spark was far beyond the void sovereign realm. In fact, it was not just one level higher than the void sovereign realm but 3 levels higher. The source of Tao law. It did not exist. The divine spark was not something that was worthless. Even the sage orthodoxies that were of a higher level than the source of Tao law were still 1 level lower than the divine spark. In the past, Ning Fan's wood element divine spark only had the advantage of being of a higher level. Due to his insufficient cultivation base, the power of the divine spark that he could exert was very limited. This time, however, he continued to devour the water element power of the gigantic tortoise, using the latter's water element to strengthen his own wood element. This was an almost shameless way of fighting. However, it could make the gigantic tortoise lose its temper. Not only did he tie the gigantic tortoise up like a wooden dumpling, but he also used his ability to produce a wooden cage. Then, he added another layer of confinement, trapping the gigantic tortoise inside the boundless wooden cage. Damn it! What kind of rotten wood is this? It's so uncomfortable to be tied up like this. I can't even break free from it. Not good. This is bad. I've lost too much of my water element power. I can't exert any strength now. I'm the dignified true marshal of this generation. Am I really going to be captured alive by a puny immortal king? This is simply a great humiliation. I refuse to accept this. I refuse to accept this. If you have the ability, remove these wooden cages and ropes and let me out. I want to fight you for 3,000 rounds. I want to eat you whole. Ah! Ah, I'm so angry. The gigantic tortoise was trapped in the wooden cage by Ning Fan. However, it could only curse and swear inside the cage. It could neither escape nor break free from the cage. There was nothing it could do to Ning Fan. As such, the Water Deluge Emperor was trapped in the water prison by the gigantic tortoise while the gigantic tortoise was trapped in the wooden cage by Ning Fan. The current situation instantly became extremely advantageous for Ning Fan. Among the enemies who came to snatch the treasures, true monarch Beihai seemed to be the only one who was still alive and kicking. Putting aside fellow Daoist Ba Han, there are only you and me left in this place. We can finally continue our previous battle. Ning Fan smiled coldly. He leaped away from the gigantic tortoise and dashed towards true monarch Beihai. He did not continue to absorb the water element power of the gigantic tortoise to strengthen himself. It was because the water element of the gigantic tortoise had already been sucked dry by him. It was already weak and powerless. Without a long time to recover, the gigantic tortoise had nothing left to absorb at all. I miscalculated. This brat's means are actually much stronger than what I estimated previously. Even if I summon all 4 dragons at the same time, I still don't have 100% confidence in defeating this brat. However, only 1 dragon came this time. since I can't do anything, I might as well retreat for now. However, there's one thing that I must be careful about. When I retreat, I must not be caught by this brat's wood element. Otherwise, my water element will also become his wood element's nutrients and I will end up like the old tortoise Shenwu. At this moment, true monarch Beihai had the intention to retreat. He no longer hoped to snatch the treasures from Ning Fan's hands. All he wanted was to leave this place to avoid any mishaps from befalling the fifth dragon. He muttered some incantations, trying to open up a path to escape. However, Ning Fan just raised his hand and pointed at him, freezing him on the spot. His attempt to escape failed. During the short period of time when he was frozen, countless wooden ropes flew out from Ning Fan's sleeves and tied him up. Not good. I must not be tied up. True monarch Beihai did not know what kind of technique he used. He actually coughed out a mouthful of blood and forcefully broke free from Ning Fan's immobilization. After that, he used the rain escape technique in a dangerous situation. Once again, he turned into rainwater and dispersed, avoiding Ning Fan's attack. Ning Fan's control over the rain was not as good as true monarch Beihai's. Thus, he could not stop true monarch Beihai from escaping. However, it did not mean that the rain master position that he had just cultivated was useless. At least, the rain dragon could not turn into rainwater and run away in front of him. While screaming miserably, it was tightly bound by Ning Fan's wooden ropes of the divine lattice. Originally, the wooden ropes of the divine lattice could not restrain living beings at the level of the rain dragon. However, it could devour and absorb the water elemental power of the rain dragon. Under the absorption of the wooden ropes, the rain dragon's body began to shrink continuously. It was a sign that its power was rapidly depleting. The rain dragon wanted to break free from the wooden ropes, but how could it do so? Its power became weaker and weaker. In the end, it was also locked in the wooden cage made of divine lattice by Ning Fan. As the rain dragon became smaller and smaller, so did the wooden cage. Eventually, the rain dragon shrunk to the size of an earthworm while the wooden cage was also the size of a palm. Ning Fan bent his palm and waved it, keeping it into his storage pouch. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with mockery. He looked at true monarch Beihai who had reappeared. He did not say anything, but it was better than 1,000 words. True monarch Beihai's eyes turned bloodshot with hatred. He was obviously here to snatch Ning Fan's treasures. However, one of the 6 dragons was snatched away by Ning Fan instead. Now, even if Ning Fan allows his clone to leave, he would not leave. How could he let the matter rest if he does not take back the rain dragon? Little Ning Fan. This old man will give you one last chance. If you return the rain dragon to me, I will write off all the grudges between us. We don't owe each other anything in the future. If you don't obey me, you will become the archenemy of my water sect. True monarch Beihai said furiously. He. Don't say such stupid words. If you want the rain dragon back, show me what you're capable of. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. If he has to find someone among the people here that he must kill, he would certainly choose true monarch Beihai. You asked for it. Eternal true body, appear. True monarch Beihai took a step forward and transformed into his true body, which was 100 zhang tall. His aura instantly skyrocketed. His true body seemed to be different from ordinary true bodies. However, Ning Fan could not tell what exactly was different. Ning Fan also transformed into his 100 zhang tall golden flame body and rushed towards true monarch Beihai. As soon as true monarch Beihai realized that Ning Fan seemed to have the intention to engage in close combat with him, his aura instantly diminished and he retreated. He had no choice but to retreat. If they engage in close combat, it would be too easy for him to be ambushed by Ning Fan's wood element. If he gets hit by Ning Fan's wood element, not to mention rescuing the rain dragon, even his clone would have to die here today. Chapter 12:19. True Lord Beihai's primordial true body looked extremely old. His hair was white and his body was thin. Although he was 1,000 feet tall, he did not give off a mighty feeling. Instead, he looked old. When an ordinary person activated the immemorial reel, their physical body's offensive and defensive attributes would increase in all aspects. However, after true Lord Beihai transformed into the immemorial reel, not only did his physical body's defense not increase, it weakened instead. It was indeed strange. Although his physical defense had been weakened, it was a fact that his cultivation base had increased. And because of this, the part of his defense that had been weakened was all increased by the Rain Will's attacks. The rain intent of true monarch North Sea who was in his true form was so massive that it exceeded Ning Fan's by 60%. Seeing that Ning Fan wanted to engage in close combat with him, true monarch Northern Sea withdrew his body and flew backwards, maintaining a distance of 1,000 zhang from Ning Fan. Why did they have to keep a distance of more than 10,000 feet? Perfected Lord Beihai could not explain it clearly either. It was an instinct, an intuition. He was the Rain Master who was good at sensing. He could vaguely sense the danger within 1,000 zhang of Ning Fan. It was as if he would be ambushed by some kind of ability that Ning Fan had yet to use if he were to step within 1,000 zhang of Ning Fan. It was not because he was afraid of a battle of body techniques that he purposely did that. Seeing that true monarch Beihai still refused to step 1,000 zhang away from him, Ning Fan sighed inwardly. He knew that it was no longer realistic to use the cross-shaped halos to ambush him. Thus, he simply stopped chasing after true monarch Beihai. Instead, he activated the cross-shaped halos right in front of him. In this way, he could be considered to be in his strongest form. With the support of the cross-shaped halo, his mana was almost limitless, and no one dared to get close to him. Since Ning Fan did not give chase, true monarch Beihai also stopped running. He stared at the cross-shaped light ring with a shocked expression. He had expected Ning Fan to have some tricks up his sleeves. However, he did not expect it to be this strange halo that emitted a terrifying aura. This is the Saint Ring? No, that's not right. It's just a little similar. Sure enough, the area within 3,000 zhang of this child was a restricted area that he couldn't step foot into. Truly a terrifying kid. He's clearly just a celestial king, yet he actually has so many tricks up his sleeve. Unfortunately, this old man is not to be trifled with. Dao Soldier, Rain Treasure Vault. With a thought from perfected Lord Beihai, a huge rain door opened in the world. The interior of the rain gate sparkled with golden light. There were unknown treasures piled up like a mountain. It was actually a treasury. The treasure vault was none other than the Dao weapon that perfected Lord Beihai had refined for many years. This Dao soldier was not in the form of a weapon. Instead, it was an extremely rare Dao soldier. Otherwise, North Sea's perfected Lord wouldn't have paid so much attention to it and cultivated it for so many years. The treasure vault could devour other people's Dao soldiers and fuse them into itself. Because of this, North Sea's true monarch had schemed against countless rain cultivators and devoured countless rain Dao soldiers. At this moment, when the treasury opened, more than 10,000 Dao soldiers charged over with an overbearing rain of light. These Dao soldiers came in all grades. The weakest was an acquired immortal artifact, and the stronger ones could even compete with some innate low-grade magic treasures. A single Dao soldier wasn't much, but when tens of thousands of Dao soldiers gathered together, it really had the aura of soldiers devouring the world. Unfortunately, even though these Dao soldiers' auras were powerful, none of them managed to hit Ning Fan. As soon as these Dao soldiers entered the range of the cross-shaped halos, they would usually be frozen on the spot, unable to advance any further. Occasionally, there would be a few Dao soldiers that were comparable to innate magic treasures that could tear apart the body freezing technique and slowly advance forward. However, a large amount of their power would also be affected by the body freezing technique. When they reach Ning Fan, their power would usually be less than 1%. Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos had become even stronger. This was naturally because his magic power had increased tremendously recently. Even the cross-shaped halos had become much stronger. With the ocean-defying sword in his hand, Ning Fan only needed to casually swing his sword a few times to destroy those Dao soldiers that were comparable to innate magic treasures. Then, he breathed out a mouthful of flame lightning sea fire. More than 10,000 weak Tao soldiers were burned to ashes in just a few breaths. What kind of halos is this? How can it be so powerful? With this halos, this young man has an additional layer of invisible defense. Within a range of 1,000 zhang, some weaker magic treasures can't even get close to him. More than 10,000 Tao soldiers were destroyed. They needed time to repair them. On the surface, these Tao soldiers were temporarily useless. However, as North Sea True Monarch chanted an incantation, the broken pieces and ashes of the Tao soldiers suddenly turned into raindrops. The raindrops spread across heaven and earth, forming a killing formation diagram that was several thousand zhang large. There were 9 gates and 6 platforms in the formation diagram. The changes of rain birth and rain destruction were hidden within it. Ning Fan's current location was the center of the killing formation where the rain destruction was located. Not half a step more and not half a step less. As expected, this person is full of schemes and is good at calculating. The attacks that seem to be harmless are actually preparing for the next attack. Ning Fan did not seem to be surprised by the appearance of the killing formation. His giant body of golden flames stomped on the ground. Immediately, a footprint that was burning with blazing golden flames was engraved at the center of the killing formation. All of a sudden, the great momentum of heaven and earth that the killing formation was rapidly condensed collapsed. Countless golden cracks spread from the center of the formation diagram to the entire formation diagram like a spider web. Eventually, it collapsed. A perfectly fine killing formation was actually destroyed by Ning Fan with just a stomp. North Sea True Monarch's expression became even uglier. Even a second-level quasi-saint would not be able to destroy that killing formation so easily. He could tell that the reason why Ning Fan was able to destroy this formation was not because of his own cultivation base. Instead, he had used some kind of special method to destroy the great momentum of the killing formation. He had broken the entire formation diagram with a single point. Being able to use the heaven sealing technique and also control the great momentum of heaven and earth. Could this young man be the descendant of the Eastern Sky Ancestor Emperor? However, according to what I know, the bloodline of the Eastern Sky Ancestor has long been cut off. It is impossible for such an outstanding person to be born. I wonder which force actually managed to cultivate such a heaven-defying immortal king. Could it be a secret race? When North Sea True Monarch thought that he might have offended a secret race when he offended Ning Fan, his heart turned gloomy. However, he also understood that there was no turning back now. Tidal Technique, Rain Swamp Technique. Rainwater suddenly gushed out from the place where Ning Fan destroyed the formation diagram. In an instant, it turned into a rain swamp. This technique was the last resort of the killing formation. Even if someone managed to break the killing formation, they would still fall into the swamp because they did not retract their strength when breaking the formation. He actually has a backup plan. How many steps has this old thief actually planned? Ning Fan's expression turned slightly solemn. He had used a lot of strength when he stomped the killing formation and it was difficult for him to retract his remaining strength. His entire right leg had sunk into the rain swamp, making it difficult for him to pull it out. That rain swamp was definitely not something that could be broken free from with brute force. The more he tried to break free, the deeper he sank. In just a few breaths, half of Ning Fan's true body had sunk into the swamp. True Monarch North Sea seemed to be raising some kind of living creature in the swamp. Ning Fan could feel the intense pain of being bitten and sucked blood from his true body that had sunk into the swamp. That feeling was like being bitten by hundreds or thousands of leeches at the same time. Moreover, there was a deadly poison spreading throughout Ning Fan's entire body, causing his body to gradually become numb and withering. Withering? How could it be withering? True Monarch North Sea's expression changed greatly when he saw Ning Fan's true body turning into a withered tree. This young man actually did not use his true body to fight him. He actually used his clone. Impossible. Ever since I came to this place, this young man did not have any chance to change his true body into his clone. Could it be that he had already made such arrangements before I arrived? He has actually been using his clone to fight me. How arrogant is he? Unfortunately, the level of this young man's wood element is too high. Even though I'm good at sensing, I actually did not notice his wood element clone at all. True monarch North Sea's guess was right. Ning Fan had already replaced his true body with his clone from the very beginning. His true body was hiding in the profound Yin world and was secretly observing everything through the eyes of his clone. Ning Fan was becoming more and more proficient in using his clone. If it was in the past, it would be very difficult for him to use his clone to display various abilities and techniques. Now, however, he could barely do it. Of course, most of the abilities that his clone used were not as powerful as his true body. Only his wood element abilities were on par with his true body. After all, he was a clone of a tree demon. No wonder this swamp of yours could destroy my clone. It turns out that this swamp is your titled Void Realm. The titled Void Realm was equivalent to the sovereign Void Realm of a sovereign realm cultivator. Including old ancestor Lei Zhe's titled Void Realm, it was Ning Fan's second time seeing this technique. This swamp was extremely powerful. Even with Ning Fan's tree demon clone's capabilities, it was still destroyed in less than 10 breaths of time. Even though part of the reason was that his tree demon clone was weak, it was also enough to show how dangerous this technique was. Fortunately, it was his clone that was attacked by this technique and not his true body. Thus, Ning Fan was not harmed at all. At the same time when true monarch North Sea noticed it, Ning Fan's true body suddenly appeared. His giant body of golden flames wore a ruthless expression. The ocean-defying sword accurately struck the weak point of the swamp. It was because his clone had fallen into the swamp before. That was why he knew where the weak point of the swamp was. Crack crack. When the weak point of the swamp was destroyed, countless void cracks immediately appeared on the surface of the swamp. Even though it was not completely destroyed, it still suffered significant damage. Where Ning Fan's sword landed, countless divine lattice tree seeds were sent into the swamp. The power of the ocean-defying sword was not enough to severely injure the titled Void Realm in a single move. However, these divine lattice tree seeds were different. They greedily absorbed the water of the swamp as if they were plundering it. They took root and sprouted inside the swamp. Countless gigantic trees took root in the swamp and grew out from the swamp. On the surface of the swamp, they formed a towering forest. This was a battle between Daos. It was a battle between a divine lattice and a titled Void Realm cultivator. A divine lattice was 3 levels higher than a titled Void Realm cultivator. When the two of them fought, it was just like a nascent soul realm cultivator bullying a vein-opening realm cultivator. It was simply a one-sided battle. Moreover, due to the suppression of water by wood, this kind of suppression became even more thorough. The void of the Rain Master, which could not even be damaged by the ocean-defying sword's weak point, began to collapse under the absorption and devouring of the forest of divine lattice tree. How dare you! True monarch North Sea let out a furious roar and rushed toward the swamp. He raised his hand and made countless slashes of rain, cutting down patches of the forest of divine lattice tree. However, it was endless. These divine lattice trees had the titled Void Realm of the Rain Master as their nutrients. Their reproduction speed was too terrifying. The time it took for true monarch North Sea to cut down a tree was enough for the forest of divine lattice tree to grow another 100 or even 1,000 trees. He was completely powerless to stop the forest of divine lattice tree from destroying the titled Void Realm. He could only watch his titled Void Realm being devoured by the forest of divine lattice tree bit by bit. Moreover, as Ning Fan controlled countless gigantic trees to attack him, he had no choice but to run far away from the swamp. He did not even dare to approach recklessly. At this moment, the nature of the forest of divine lattice tree devouring the swamp was completely different from the water elemental power of the gigantic tortoise. The physical body of the gigantic tortoise was being sucked away. What was being sucked away was water elemental magic power. Even if that magic power was temporarily lost, it could be easily recovered as long as it meditated in the future. But what about him? What was being sucked away was the purest power of the titled Void Realm. It was the origin power of the titled Void Realm of the Rain Master. Once it is lost, it could not be regained and one could only cultivate again in the future. Fortunately, he only came with a single dragon this time. He did not destroy the entire titled Void Realm. It was just 1/6 of the Void Realm. Even so, it was still considered a great loss. More and more cracks appeared in the void of the swamp. Eventually, the swamp completely dried up and turned into a puddle of dried mud. Countless strange immortal insects that looked like leeches crawled out of the dried mud. Each of them was panic-stricken. However, as soon as those immortal insects crawled out of the mud, they were pierced by the roots of the trees that also followed them out of the mud. Each of them was sucked dry and died a violent death. As a result, the portion of the titled Void Realm that true sovereign North Sea brought was completely exhausted. Unlike absorbing the magic power of the gigantic tortoise previously, the Forest of Divinity this time actually gave Ning Fan a huge amount of titled Void Realm power. To Ning Fan, who had just broken through to the middle realm of the Rain Master realm, this titled Void Realm power of the Rain Master, which had the same origin, was a great supplement. It directly condensed 1/6 of the Void Realm of his Rain Master realm. In addition to replenishing the power of his Rain Master realm, there was also a little bit of the titled Void Realm of the Rain Master realm. It was obvious that he had never cultivated the titled Void Realm of the Rain Master before. However, at this moment, he had directly grasped a trace of the titled Void Realm power. Even though there was not much titled Void Realm power, they could be used as seeds to be cultivated. As long as they are cultivated properly, Ning Fan would have a great chance to cultivate another titled Void Realm on top of the Rain Master realm in the future. Do you still want to continue fighting? Your losses will only increase. It's still not too late to escape now. Ning Fan purposely mocked true sovereign North Sea to distract him. However, he was secretly coordinating with the general situation to seal the heavens and earth, cutting off all of true sovereign North Sea's escape routes. Escape? Ha ha ha. Why should I escape? Why should I escape? You stole my rain dragon and damaged my titled Void Realm. If I don't kill you, I swear that I'm not a human. True sovereign North Sea seemed to have gone mad with anger. His eyes were blood red. He roared angrily, saying that he wanted to tear Ning Fan into a million pieces. He raised his hand and slashed out hundreds of millions of rain sword rays. The sword rays gathered together and eventually formed an ancient divine statue with 3 heads and 8 arms. It was holding a sword in its hand. It was the divine statue of the Rain Master that was summoned by the ancient god investiture technique. Fu Su Chen had also summoned this divine statue in the past. However, what cultivation realm was Fu Su Chen at? The divine statue that he summoned was far less powerful than true sovereign North Sea's. The divine statue of the Rain Master that true sovereign North Sea summoned had the magic power of 18,000 tribulations. Moreover, this was the result of his divine clone descending upon this place. If his true body came, the divine statue of the Rain Master could directly erupt with the cultivation base of a second-level quasi-saint. As soon as the divine statue appeared, true sovereign North Sea immediately joined hands with the divine statue to attack Ning Fan from all sides. All kinds of rain element secret techniques were launched at Ning Fan recklessly. The cultivation base of true sovereign North Sea's divine clone was at the quasi-saint realm. The divine statue of the Rain Master was also at the quasi-saint realm. Moreover, the two of them had worked together countless times and they had a tacit understanding with each other. This time, their cooperation was not as simple as 1 + 1. With the smooth complement between their attacks and defenses, they would even have the strength to fight against a second-level quasi-saint. As expected, as soon as Ning Fan fell into their encirclement, he immediately defended more than he attacked. It was extremely strenuous for him to deal with them. It seems like old man North Sea has really gone mad with anger. He actually summoned the divine statue of the Rain Master. Cold Buddha's expression was incomparably grim. He knew very well how powerful the divine statue of the Rain Master was. Seeing that Ning Fan was being attacked by 2 quasi-saints at the same time, how could he still sit still and watch? He immediately wanted to abandon the 3 treasures that he was guarding and go and help Ning Fan. However, at this moment, Ning Fan's voice sounded. Be careful. That old thief North Sea is on your left. Almost at the same time when Ning Fan's voice resounded, the rain of heaven and earth suddenly gathered at the left side of Ba Cold Buddha, revealing the body of true sovereign North Sea. The true sovereign North Sea, who was working together with the divine statue, was accidentally struck by Ning Fan's sword. He was slashed into specks of illusory light that filled the sky and disappeared. Illusory technique. It turned out that when true sovereign North Sea summoned the divine statue, he used an illusory technique to attack Ning Fan instead of himself. Meanwhile, he secretly sneaked to Ba Cold Buddha's side, trying to seize Ning Fan's 3 treasures. He purposely pretended to be mad with hatred toward Ning Fan. In reality, he had already made a judgment in his mind. He knew that he was definitely not Ning Fan's match today after losing part of his titled Void God Realm power. In the end, he still decided to run away. Of course, running away was one thing, but he could not run away empty-handed. Ning Fan seized his rain dragon and swallowed his titled Void God Realm. Thus, he would seize Ning Fan's treasures to make up for his losses. Unfortunately, his illusory technique could fool Ba Cold Buddha, but it could not fool Ning Fan. Fortunately, even though Ning Fan warned him, Ba Cold Buddha's reaction was still a step slower. He only managed to protect the heavenly Tao box and the paper pouch. In a hurry, he was sent flying by true sovereign North Sea's sword Chi, and the jade wine pot was snatched away. I got it. After paying a heavy price, he still managed to snatch this jade wine pot in the end. As soon as a whiff of the wine fragrance entered his nose, true sovereign North Sea felt that his dried-up titled Void God Realm power had been regenerated. If he drinks all of the wine, he might be able to recover all of his titled Void God Realm power that he had lost. Moreover, he might even be able to improve his titled Void God Realm power. Old bastard North Sea. Quickly return the jade wine pot to me. Ba Cold Buddha roared furiously. Because he was too angry, he looked like an angry Vajra. He was not injured by true sovereign North Sea's sword Chi, but he was still sent flying. It was already too late for him to stop true sovereign North Sea from snatching the jade wine pot. He could only hope that he could make up for his mistake and snatch the jade wine pot back. Ha ha ha. True sovereign North Sea's complacent laughter was the only thing that responded to Ba Cold Buddha. How could he return the item that he had snatched? With the jade wine pot in his hand, true sovereign North Sea did not stay any longer. He lifted his hand and was about to tear open the hollow space to escape. Since he was frozen by Ning Fan when he was escaping earlier, the divine statue of the Rain Master that he summoned this time launched an attack in tacit understanding and entangled Ning Fan, preventing him from having the chance to freeze him at all. The reason why he summoned the divine statue of the Rain Master was not to kill Ning Fan. It was obviously to prepare for his escape. His escape this time was perfect. As long as there are no unforeseen accidents, this trace of his spirit clone would be able to escape successfully. However, an unforeseen accident still happened. True sovereign North Sea wanted to tear open the hollow space to escape, but he realized that he could not do so. He thought that he had concealed his intention of escaping flawlessly. However, Ning Fan still noticed him and sealed the heaven and earth in advance. That seal was not strong. If it was in the past, he would only need 3 to 5 breaths of time to break the seal and leave with ease. However, he did not have the time to break the seal now. As soon as his escape plan failed, Ba Cold Buddha caught up to him and entangled him, not giving him any time to tear open the seal at all. Detestable. Detestable. I was just one step away. I was just one step away from leaving this place. True sovereign North Sea was really angry this time. He had already lost his rain dragon and his void-conferred god realm was already injured. If he loses his spirit clone as well, his loss this time would really be irreversible. Ning Fan is obviously just an immortal king. How can he be so cunning? How can he predict every step that I take? I really can't be careless when facing this old thief. Ning Fan inwardly rejoiced. Fortunately, he sealed the heaven and earth in advance out of caution. Otherwise, if true sovereign North Sea really managed to snatch the jade wine pot and escape, he would feel terrible as if he had swallowed a fly. Fellow Taoist Ba Cold. Do you really want to force this spirit clone of mine to die? Just because of a young immortal king that you don't know, you want to form a huge karma with me? How unwise is that? As long as you let me go and help my spirit clone escape, I won't hold a grudge against you anymore. I'm even willing to give fellow Taoist a great gift after this. I remember that you have been looking for the 3 eras Sirius flower. To be honest, I just happened to obtain one a few days ago. If you let me go, I will give you the 3 eras Sirius flower. Isn't that what we both want? I can swear a Tao heart oath that I will never go back on my words. If I break this oath, let me die a horrible death. My body and spirit will be destroyed and my divine soul will never be able to enter samsara. Seeing that he could not escape by force, true sovereign North Sea tried to use a soft approach. Unfortunately, he had underestimated Ba Cold Buddha's persistence towards Ning Fan and his belief towards the word Buddha. The temptation of the 3 eras Sirius flower to Ba Cold Buddha was not weak. However, how could he betray the Buddha and the Hunkin Leviathan for mere worldly possessions? Ba Cold Buddha let out a long sigh and closed his eyes painfully, as if he was recalling some past events in the mortal world. His expression was filled with indescribable helplessness. When he opened his eyes again, all his confusion had disappeared. There was no sadness, joy, anger in his eyes. He just remained silent and gave up. He attacked again and again, trying to take back the jade wine pot. Hiss! What kind of demonic technique did that kid Ning Fan use on Ba Hanzi that he even gave up on the 3 eras Sirius flower? In the past, Ba Hanzi did not hesitate to fall out with the current Dipankara just to get a 3 eras Sirius flower. But today, he is actually willing to give up on this flower. Seeing that the soft approach did not work, true sovereign North Sea's heart was filled with despair. He knew that this spirit clone of his was probably going to be destroyed today. Perhaps the heavens couldn't bear to see true monarch Beihai die. The flooding emperor suddenly broke out of the Jinwu water prison and escaped. It turned out that after the giant tortoise was captured, the Jinwu water prison lost its source of power and became weaker and weaker. In the end, it lost the power to trap the flooding emperor. Ha ha ha. Fellow Taoist, your name is North Sea, right? You wouldn't mind joining forces with me to split these 3 treasures, right? A glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. The flooding emperor was a proud and aloof person, but he actually put down his pride and took the initiative to join hands with true monarch of North Sea. He had to let go of his pride. The suppression of the palm of emotion was too powerful. Even with the guidance of the sky map, the flooding emperor's avatar couldn't leave for too long. At most, he would have to return to his body after the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. He didn't have much time left. He had to do something. His avatar could not be returned empty-handed. This was the chance he had waited for countless years to escape. When true Lord North Sea heard the flooding emperor's words, it was as though he had seen a life-saving straw as he rejoiced. Ha ha ha. It's my honor to be able to join hands with the ancient emperors, so why would I mind? Save me. Save me from this wooden cage and I will also join hands with you guys. I won't eat you guys anymore. Quickly come and save me. I can also make a great Tao heart oath. I will repay you guys. The giant tortoise also requested to join hands with them. In order to escape from the wooden cage, he had become shameless. He actually asked for help from his previous enemies. Both true monarch of North Sea and the flooding emperor had suffered a great loss in the hands of the giant tortoise. From the bottom of their hearts, they naturally wished for the giant tortoise to die. How would they be willing to save it? However, they had a common enemy and a common goal right now. While the flooding emperor was still hesitating whether to save the giant tortoise or not, true monarch of North Sea had already made his decision. Fellow Taoist Water, quickly go and save fellow Taoist Jinwu. Upon hearing that, the flooding emperor no longer hesitated. He turned into a torrent that pierced through the sky and rushed towards the wooden cage that imprisoned the giant tortoise. At this moment, the eight-cold Buddha was entangled by true monarch of North Sea while Ning Fan was entangled by the divine statue of the Rain Master. On the surface, there was no one who could stop the flooding emperor from saving the giant tortoise. Seeing that it was about to regain its freedom, the giant tortoise laughed heartily. It was extremely happy and even felt a little proud of itself. Everyone thought that it was an idiot. They all thought that this stupid tortoise would not lie to them. However, that was just an illusion. The great oath of Tao heart. That's nothing. So what if I go against it? After he got out of the cage, the first thing he did was to leave the flooding emperor and true monarch of North Sea and run away by himself. He was really frightened by Ning Fan's wood elemental technique. Now that he had finally regained his freedom, he did not want to take the risk and fight with Ning Fan again. Of course, he would run as far as he could. It was funny that the two idiots, the flooding emperor and true monarch of North Sea, were actually deceived by his great oath of Tao heart and were actually willing to save him. Ha ha ha. Aren't these two people even more stupid than me? Unfortunately, the giant tortoise did not laugh for long. Very soon, he could not laugh anymore. Without knowing why, he suddenly could not move. Countless tree roots broke out of his body. Those were not the roots of the divine lattice tree. Those roots were actually condensed from light. A tree of light. No one noticed that Ning Fan had already placed a tree of light in this place. It had cleverly merged with the natural light and fooled everyone. The seeds of the tree of light shot into everyone's eyes and into their physical bodies. Following Ning Fan's command, those seeds of light began to grow and sprout at a crazy rate. The giant tortoise, the flooding emperor, true monarch of North Sea and even the divine statue of the Rain Master were affected. Their bodies began to feel numb. Their magic power seemed to have solidified and it was difficult for them to circulate it. The flooding emperor's expression changed drastically. Currently, his physical body was numb and he had lost the support of his magic power to fly. Thus, he directly fell from the sky. How could he fly to save the giant tortoise? He could not even protect himself. Fortunately, he was not an ordinary person. He used some unknown method to forcefully suppress the seeds of the tree of light in his body, allowing him to regain some of his mobility. True monarch of North Sea was also in the same situation. Even though he also had a way to suppress the seeds of the tree of light in his body, he was still paralyzed for a while. During this short period of time, the jade wine pot that he had obtained with great difficulty was snatched back by the eight-cold Buddha again. He gained it and lost it again. He himself was even suppressed by the eight-cold Buddha under the 18 ice mountains. Amitabha. Bahan Buddha only heaved a sigh of relief after he regained the jade wine pot. He thought to himself that it was really a close call just now. If it wasn't for Ning Fan having the light tree as a backup move, the giant tortoise might have been released by the flooding emperor. If that happens, it would be troublesome. He did not think that he and Ning Fan would be able to protect the three treasures under the joint attack of the giant tortoise, the northern sea and the water-submerged sea. Bahan Buddha heaved a sigh of relief. However, Ning Fan did not feel relaxed at all. Oppressive, indescribably oppressive. The air was so heavy that it was difficult to breathe. He had clearly activated the Tree of Light to launch a sneak attack, but he felt that it was even more dangerous. It wasn't that the sneak attack didn't work, but this time, the enemy was really going all out. Crack, crack, crack. The statue of the Rain Master suddenly lacked strength and could no longer be maintained. It turned into fragments of rain and shattered. The statue's power seemed to have been taken away by someone. Boom, boom, boom. The 18 ice mountains used to suppress true monarch Beihai suddenly collapsed one by one. Amidst the avalanche, a giant who looked like perfected cultivator Hai but was even younger walked out of the mountains. This was not perfected Lord Beihai in his old age. This was perfected Lord Beihai in his prime. This was the second phase true body of true Lord Beihai. An old man listens to the rain under a monk's hut, stars already appear on his temples. A middle-aged man listens to the rain in a passenger boat, wild geese crying in the west wind. Hee, I didn't think that I would be forced to use my second-level true body. Ning Fan, Baldi Ba Han, you two are not bad at all. This old man originally thought that you would be slightly surprised to see this old man open the stage 2 true body, but it seems that you are not surprised at all. The robust true Lord North Sea sneered. In his robust years, his true body was no longer thin and weak. Instead, his muscles were strong and his entire body was filled with inexhaustible power. Under his second stage true body, true Lord Beihai's reign intent had nearly doubled. His cultivation base was only a sliver away from the second stage quasi-saint realm. Ba. Who among us demi-sages didn't know that you had mastered the second stage of the true body? How can I be surprised? Although Bahan Buddha was not surprised, his expression was very grave. It was obvious that he was very fearful of true Lord North Sea's second phase true body. He also returned to his Duan 2 true body. Just as he was about to activate his second phase true body, his expression suddenly changed. However, this time, true Lord North Sea did not just transform into his second phase true body. His true body could actually become younger. His reign intent could actually become stronger. His cultivation base could actually continue to rise and was advancing towards the second stage true body step by step. You have actually cultivated the stage 3 true body. This is impossible. This time, the 8 Chill Buddha was truly shocked. Even in the true world, only a few talented cultivators could cultivate the stage 3 true body. It was as difficult as ascending the heavens for the cultivators of the true world. However, this true Lord North Sea could actually cultivate this body with his identity in the dream world. It would not be an exaggeration to say that his talent was heaven-defying. Under the stage 3 true body, the trace of true Lord North Sea's consciousness finally possessed the cultivation base of a second stage quasi-saint. His expression was extremely painful, as if activating the stage 3 true body was too much for him. Amidst the pain, there was also joy because all of his emotions were released at this moment. He had been suppressed for too long. He had been suppressed by Ning Fan for too long. Finally, he could use his full strength. Since Ning Fan did not want to let his consciousness go, he would not leave. Forcefully activating the stage 3 true body would bring a heavy price to this trace of his consciousness. He would accept this price. After all, he could not see any hope of his consciousness escaping. Since that was the case, he would give up on his consciousness and teach Ning Fan a bloody lesson. Little Ning Fan, today, I will teach you what a second stage quasi-saint is like. Boom! Before true Lord North Sea had the time to spout nonsense, a Dao mountain suddenly fell from the sky, smashing into him and causing him to spurt out blood. He was directly pressed under the mountain. Bahan Buddha was dumbfounded. Didn't they say that the stage 3 true body was incomparably heaven-defying? Why was it suppressed by Ning Fan as soon as it made its appearance? What kind of mountain is this? It can even suppress a second stage quasi-saint when he was careless. Does it really need to be so heaven-defying? Impossible. This is the Dao Mountain of the Sage. You still have such a trump card. You are despicable. I won't accept this. Below the Dao Mountain, true Lord North Sea spurted out blood. He could no longer maintain the stage 3 true body and his true body was smashed back to its original form. After all, he was not a true second stage quasi-saint. The stage 3 true body was still too much for him. Be careful. The source of the danger that I feel is not North Sea. Ning Fan did not even look at true Lord North Sea. His expression was slightly unpleasant. His attention was completely attracted by the flooding Great Emperor. One should know that when he was being chased by the Lord Ant, Ning Fan only felt powerless to resist. However, when facing the flooding Great Emperor at this moment, he felt a chill. The devil blood in his body was actually trembling in fear. What he was afraid of was not the flooding Great Emperor himself but something else unknown. In the first place, Ning Fan did not plan to use the Dao Mountain to deal with true Lord North Sea. He was worried that he would expose too many of his trump cards. After all, he was just fighting the flooding Great Emperor's clone this time. In the future, he might have to fight the flooding Great Emperor's true body. Thus, he naturally needed to reserve some trump cards for emergencies. However, due to the changes that happened to the flooding Great Emperor, Ning Fan could no longer care so much at this moment. He had no choice but to suppress true Lord North Sea with a thunderous method. Only then could he spare all his attention to deal with the flooding Great Emperor. At this moment, the blood light around the flooding Great Emperor's body was fluctuating at a strange frequency. That fluctuation was too abnormal and evil. The flooding Great Emperor's eyes became emptier and deeper. That kind of depth was like a bottomless abyss of the Devil Tao. It was as if some living creature was slowly crawling out from the endless abyss of the Devil Tao. When the fluctuation of the blood light rose to a certain level, another voice suddenly came out from the flooding Great Emperor's body. It was a creepy laughter. He he he. That's right. That's it. Flooding, my good brother, quickly let me out. Quickly destroy all my immortal nature and use my power. You should know that you can't do anything by yourself.